Do you not want to?
Bearcat Bounce Podcast. Back at it again. As always, it's a Monday. It's a Monday morning. It's a Pike to Bins reunion Monday. It is a Monday night, pardon me. It is a new coach. That means new on the logo. That means new on the screen. Across from Wes Miller, new coach Scott Satterfield Monday. That means that there's no better time for me to introduce and welcome back and continue to discuss with my three pals, my buddies who talk to me so much that I need to tell them to relax because this has been one wild search after a wild search. You know, we had it from the get-go. Scotty Satterfield to Cincinnati. So without further ado, it's time to bring in three pals, three guys. That's right. Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, Ryan Royer. Gentlemen, how are we?
Look, once I say here we go, it's go time. I can't undo the click of live.
How are we?
I'm delightful. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for asking. Ryan, how are we?
I'm good. Just a lot going on. Time to dissect some stuff.
Amen. Aaron, how are we?
It's been a rough day. The baby is sick, and it's the first time she's been sick, so she has been attached to me pretty much until 30 minutes ago.
Okay. That's not too bad. It's your loving daughter attached to your hip.
Oh, she's not fun right now. Her whole face is running, and she's crying, and not fun.
Fair.
You feel bad for it, but
did you catch it?
Not yet.
Yeah, you tried. Chad, you're off the screen, but you said you're doing delightful. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm delightful.
Okay.
Delightful. It's been a busy day. It's been a lot.
Yeah.
Got a call at 7:30 this morning that it was going down. So haven't stopped since. So it's been good. It's been good.
Meet me at Fifth Third. It's going down. Yeah, that's right. Scott Satterfield, number 43. But we're gonna mention that, but first we gotta talk about, you know, if you have like something, not a runny nose, but maybe like some running oil coming out of your car, maybe a little bit of a running flat tire, you know, maybe your car's rubbing against you all day and you're really getting frustrated about it. Head over to Danco Transmission and Auto Care. Danco Joe. That's right. Hit up Danco Joe. Let him know. Shout out Scott Satterfield. Ask him for a little help, a little $10 off your next oil change, or 10% off your next fixing. Danco Auto Care and Transmission. But guys, yeah, Chad, early in the morning. Sucks that it happens on a Monday, my busiest day of my day job week. So it's a lot of catching up for everyone to do. But hey, little Monday morning drop, and before you know it, 1 p.m. we're introducing Scott Satterfield as the new head coach of the University of Cincinnati Bearcats. And Chad, you've been there for all of it, so I want to get your thoughts in a bit. But Ryan, I want to hear your thoughts first. When you saw it all drop on Twitter, everything of that, how you've been able to gather everything that you've seen, everything that you've been able to talk to, and go from there with Scott Satterfield, new head coach.
Yeah, seeing the image pop up on Bearcats like social media, it's like, all right, like this new change is for real now. It's like, that's not Luke Fickell's big ass teeth up there smiling. That's a new guy with the visor up. So it's exciting, but it's also kind of, I was a little shocked. That was my first. I was like, who? Scott said, who is this guy? I have no idea who he is really. I had to do my research on him. I'm still a little like on the fence, you know. It's not like a splash hire. I don't think it's anything anyone really saw coming. I think he's got a lot to prove. He's got a big spot to fill with what Coach Fickell did. You know, first glances, it's, you know, basically 500 at Louisville in the ACC. That's a little concerning. Did well at App State. You know, the whole thing while he transitioned FCS to FBS, did a good job with that. Yeah, I mean, it could be a little bit of a help in our transition, but, you know, that's kind of apples to oranges in my opinion. Mm-hmm. What else? You know, not great defense. I mean, it's literally like 450 yards offense, 400 yards defense. I mean, you're not going to that explains a lot of the 500 record. You got to play defense. I think that's what makes Cincinnati great, what we've been doing the past years on defense. So hopefully retaining Combs, maybe Walt Stewart. I think that'll be huge for him in defensive strategy, along with just recruiting in the area. I mean, I kind of wanted a big splash hire, like I said, and he may not be that, but he's got a good track record with recruiting, got a good track record with NIL, but you can pour some money into NIL and get these big name players get 4 or 5 stars, but you got to be able to coach them. And at the end of the day, you got to win some damn football. So that's something I haven't seen much from him yet. So I'm not going to jump on the train, but he's got to earn it. There's some positive things to be said about him. So I'm going to give him a chance. I trust John. I trust Pinto. They've hired great people across the board in athletics. So the guys were, they were kind of excited. I mean, he has, I'm sure a bunch of the offensive guys were excited. He seemed like he presented himself well. They liked how he came in there and kind of said, it's time to get to work after this bowl game. I liked that, but I'm still on the fence. He's got stuff to prove. It's just, you kind of, when you go to the college football playoff and you've won a shit ton of football games, you kind of want to feel a little bit more secure. You kind of want to feel like you're coming out of the gates trying to attack. I know Cunningham said this is a safe hire. It's like a comfortable fit. And, my opinion is I don't really want safe. Safe is death in my world. I want someone who's going to come out there and, be kind of an impact guy right away. And I just hope that wasn't John's full opinion on him. Oh, this will be a nice, safe guy to get. He'll be the safest option. But I'm hoping he comes out swinging, ready to get shit rolling, get NIL rolling, because that was a big problem, I'm guessing. And yeah, I know I just kind of rambled for a little bit, but this is the first time I've been able to talk. First time I've been able to talk about it all day. I've been stuck at work, so
right. No, I'm the same way, but someone who's been hard at work, really trying to struggle and figure out his own self. Because Ryan, I'm gonna touch on a couple of your thoughts there as well afterwards. I want to get Aaron's initial thoughts as well, because you mentioned the whole jump from FCS FBS, whole different animal. I kind of said a little tweet about that, and a lot of the Louisville faithful hates the Cincinnati faithful right now, probably stronger than they ever have, which has been
no,
fun.
I don't think that's true.
Or as strong.
No, I think we'll get to it as to why.
No, I didn't mean if you bash Louisville themselves, not the whole Scott Satterfield thing, not that part. Just more if you just say anything ill-willed about Louisville. You know what I mean? It's just
not really.
Yes, the fault is more on Scott Satterfield. It's not on Louisville itself. It's on Scott Satterfield. That's what I was pointing to, not the whole Scott Satterfield thing. But Aaron, thoughts when you saw it drop this morning with Brennick's all over you?
I don't like the way you phrased that.
Just
so
you're in a weird spot tonight, man. You step your game up.
So obviously what he did at Louisville, 500 record, 25-24, nothing to write home about. The big hit there was the 4-7 season, but I don't know. I mean, he doesn't move the needle for me as much as some of the other names that were out there, including what appears to be Deion Sanders OC. I think that moved the needle for me even more than
the guy that struggled to win in the MAC moved the needle more than Scott Satterfield for you, who won at Appalachian State at a gigantic rate compared to Sean Lewis.
I was getting there, thanks. But he did have a lot of success at Appalachian State. Now, it's been some time since he was at Appalachian State, so that's an eternity for a coach. That's a whole tenure anywhere for a coach.
Okay.
Where am I wrong?
Go ahead.
What do you want to say, Chad? Because everything I say is always wrong.
No, oh, good God. podcast is supposed to do, is talk and discuss.
There we
I
go.
just think like the tone is always negative. You're more high on Sean Lewis, who struggled to win at Kent State over Scott Satterfield that won at Appalachian State. I don't understand that logic. But anyway.
So, Chad, since you've been able to go to the press conference, dissect all of that, had your not exclusive interview with Vic afterward. Sorry, with Scott Satterfield afterwards. That'll take a little while. What are we going? Sat? Is Sat the short name for?
Sure. I think that's what they called him down there.
Satty Daddy.
Yeah, I heard.
Satty Daddy.
I heard Cunningham.
I think Statty might not be okay with that.
Yeah,
it's already copyrighted by the boy Statty.
Statty might not be okay with somebody infringing upon his deal.
The Statty Daddy. But I think I heard Cunningham actually mentioned him as Coach Sat, so that'll be something short like Vic was. So
yeah.
Chad, you and Justin had to sit down with him. A really good interview, actually, a little bit more of a personal back and forth.
It's like that Justin and I thing. Like we work pretty well together.
It's like stepbrothers.
Kind of, yeah. Somebody said he was like the guy that went to another school, but like is a fan, so he donates money and got like an honorary degree from Bearcat Journal.
That's a good way to put it. Do you guys wear the tuxedos for it?
No.
Okay,
what you see is what you get with me right here.
There
I did have the slacks on today instead of the jeans.
Ooh, okay, fancy.
Yeah. Damn,
fancy.
Well, after you've been able to kind of gather more info, swallow it whole, thoughts as far as the search itself, how things wrapped up, because Louisville posted that it didn't start to, conversation didn't start until, at least what you said was that it didn't start until Saturday night. And then Sunday is when the first, interviews happened. So it did happen really, really fast, which is what Satterfield said. Just kind of your thoughts on everything now.
So I think there was probably at least like, remember I talked about there was like 30 or 40 calls that went out early in the process. I think he was probably involved with one of those, to just like, touch base and kind of see where each other were at. And then you have to wonder, like, maybe they started to get through this thing and started to think like, you're looking at, a couple MAC head coaches and you're looking at an SEC assistant and that you're looking in these different places and you wonder how much, maybe they started to get through this thing and thought, I wonder if there's something, maybe this isn't, we're not finding exactly what they want. Because remember, Cunningham laid out a pretty specific list of like, you're going to have to be good at NIL. You're going to have to be good at the portal. You're going to have some recruiting chops. Like, you're going to, and I think he's made it clear now with his two major hires, he values experience. He values head coaching experience. So I just wonder if maybe they got to a point where they were like, you know what, let's double back and make sure we've exhausted every option from those people maybe that we talked to earlier in the process. And then Satterfield's name apparently comes back around. He said in the presser that he was driving up for his interview as the Bengals game was ending. So that was, 7 o'clock or so.
Yeah.
6:30, 7 o'clock yesterday for like the in-person, I guess, interview. Now, as I talked about in the interview that we did with him after the press conference, he was familiar with Cincinnati because he was almost your coach, Royer. Or maybe you wouldn't even have been here if that were the case. But he finished a close second to Luke Fickell previously, and it was kind of like offense, defense, right? Like, do we want to go with the offensive guy, which was Satterfield? Do we want to go defense with Fickell? I think Fickell's persistence, like he was apparently just relentless in trying to get this job. I think that might have pushed him over the top, whereas Satterfield coming from North Carolina, I think there was such a disconnect locally from Tuberville that I felt like they probably had to overcorrect and get like Mr. Ohio, right? Luke is like Mr. Ohio.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why Luke won the job the first time around. But I wonder how much that familiarity helped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like when it came back around to him, well, I've already interviewed. It was, I believe, with Bone and Ono. But I already know the sales pitch. I already know what they have to offer. And now they have even more to offer. They're going into the Big 12. They've got the indoor practice facility, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. And I guess it's, when, like how I alluded to before, it's like you made a playoff, like you've been a really successful program, you're going to the Power Five. And like when you step back and you really like think about all the options we had on the table, going from a guy like Coach Fickle, like you want like that top cream of the crop guy, so like a big name. And like when you really think about it, there wasn't really that many like options. So when you proven options, people have been head coaches at Power Five conferences, like you just said, and having a guy that you had second in line before, like that's something, it would make sense. I'm just wondering like why it took so long, I guess, why they waited.
It looks bad. Like you just can't divide. I'm a backwards hat guy.
Yeah,
the backwards visor is just a terrible look.
I know. It almost feels like you were born with a backwards hat on, Chad.
I like a hat, but I don't want the brim all up in my shit.
I know.
So, backwards hat it is.
Yeah. I don't know. That was just kind of like, I wonder why he was like kind of on the back burner for so long. Because that's the kind of way it's kind of like seeming like it's played out. And, I mean, when you like compare him against like those MAC coaches, I do think it's a better hire. I think going with a guy who's coached at a lot of Power Five levels. He's been a head coach at the Power Five. I think that holds up better than, being in the MAC, and especially if you're not like dominating the MAC too. So I do prefer, Coach Sad over the like Lewis and the other MAC guys they were looking into. But I don't know. I just get nervous. Yeah. I just get nervous because it's like Fickle was not only a defensive guy, he was a culture guy. And Coach Brady was like his right-hand man to that and so good with culture.
But there was a risk. There was an inherent risk there, Ryan. Brady had never been a head strength coach.
Yeah, I know. And that's kind of something you learned, like, through year one, and then you really saw from year one to year two. And
Fine. Come back, Aaron. Papa Bear misses you.
There he is. Let's go. And I just, he alluded to culture in his speech, like how he had a great culture and stuff. So he needs to not change. He needs to know that I'm not going to come in here and change that. And sometimes when you get all like NIL and recruiting happy, you kind of lose that sense of culture. And that was something Coach Fickle did a great job in his recruiting. And I guess kind of like in his downfall towards the NIL, like he wanted everything to be about like keeping that culture, that camaraderie. He didn't want NIL to get out of hand, but I guess the trend of college football is this crazy ass NIL shit. So it's hard to balance. He's got to stress the culture and maintaining the culture and not trying to change it, because that is what made us successful over the past like 6 years. It's going to be a hard task for him.
What I will say there, though, that's going to be interesting, Ryan, we never actually saw him coach through this NIL stuff, because this was really the first year, and it was an Adidas thing. So to kind of break down some of it, their number one quarterback, their quarterback commit was a 4-star quarterback, Elite 11 guy. His dad runs one of the bigger summer quarterback academies. Okay. And his teammates at St. John's Bosco out in California, most of them play for this 7-on-7 team.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sponsored by Adidas. And Adidas, through the quarterback coach, who I believe is going to be coming with Satterfield to Cincinnati,
Pete Thomas.
Pete Thomas. They kind of all connected. So Adidas was able to pump money into the quarterback academy and the 7-on-7 team through NIL. And in return, those guys committed to Louisville. Huh. So he had not coached any of those guys yet. So, and I agree fully with what you're saying. I'm just saying we didn't get the chance to see that culture side of it because his classes were pretty normal for like an ACC team. Mm-hmm. 30s, right around, between 30, 35, and 40. That's kind of where he had settled. And then we saw that big jump with this class because Adidas had kind of, for people that don't understand, the Louisville is like a flagship for Adidas.
Oregon and Adidas, for Nike.
Yeah, Louisville is
Maryland Under Armour.
For Under Armour, Louisville for Adidas. For Adidas, it's really bad if Louisville football sucks. Mm-hmm. So they were kind of pumping money into one of their flagships through a relationship that it's like AAU basketball.
But that relationship isn't going to exist anymore here.
No, that's what I'm explaining.
Yeah. So it's worse.
No, but he understands, he has now kind of experienced where NIL can, and he said it in the interview that Justin and I had with him. Look, if you're expecting to get top level kids, high level kids that you need to win the Big 12, and you think you're going to be able to do it without paying them, you have a misunderstanding of how you get top level kids in 2022. It's that simple.
You got to coach them too. And at the end of the day, you might be able to pay them tens of thousands of dollars. And God knows if we even have that right now. But when they get on campus, you got to be able to develop them and you got to be able to make them win football games. And that's the one thing that he hasn't done. So that's the one thing I'm super stressed out about. Because, you don't have time to just puts you around when you're transitioning into a new conference. Look what happened with Rutgers and Maryland and those schools that they went in the Big Ten and they just got shit on for years. And we're kind of in a more difficult situation than they are, coming from a smaller conference and not as much revenue. So I think yes, NIL is super important, but at the end of the day, once you get these kids on campus, you got to be able to develop them and you got to be able to freaking win. And that's something that he's going to have to do better at here at Cincinnati, because we're used to winning. We have a culture of winning now. I don't want to take a step back, and just because we're trying to pay these kids $50,000 damn dollars, they got to be able to win the game at the end of the day.
Well, I think just as Cincy Reigns points out, I think just the simple fact that Satterfield recognizes how important and understands, that it is something that you got to put a big emphasis on is that whole NIL situation. So, I think just that simple fact is a big starter in that situation. But like you said, developing a program, continuing to push the program forward. And, I was thinking about it a little bit more, how, Satterfield took over at App State, where he played there and everything. But he took over for a coach who ended up being in the Hall of Fame. And he won a couple of national championships at the FCS level and kind of just did a really good job building up that program at App State. And what did Scott Satterfield do? He came in, immediately helped push them towards the FBS ranks. And then after that, it was more of a, building that program and continue to sustain the success that Jerry Moore had at App State. And I think that's similar to what is going on with Cincinnati, just in a relative sense. Obviously, Cincinnati is steps and steps and steps above App State, but, more of a relative sense of, okay, you're not coming into a dumpster fire. You're not coming into a team that struggled over a couple of seasons, and then all of a sudden the coach is fired. No, this program is humming. There's a lot of momentum leading into the Big 12. So, continuing to go with that culture and that, just hard work and chip on the shoulder things, I think that's more important as it comes to, that I just mentioned that, Chad, about Cincy Reigns. So give him money. Yeah. The fact that he understands that. But I
just thought the exchange was funny, Brent. That's all.
I know. But I just think that's more of a situation because Rick Minter had a long post that he posted that was sent to me. And, I think he pointed out well. He said, I have connections at App State and everything. And they said that he built a program there. He sustained a program that was built on kind of the same morals of what Coach Fick brought into UC when he took over. So I think it's more of a, yes, like a safe hire, if you will, but one that can kind of just keep the ball rolling and keep things heading in the right direction because, you aren't making that splash hire, like we said, but it's like a high floor, undetermined ceiling instead of a really high ceiling, but a pretty low floor as well.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point.
But Aaron,
Aaron. Well, I'm gonna leave. I don't.
I'm happy to have Aaron back as well.
Me too. I missed him.
But Aaron, as far as it goes with, I'm sure you were able to watch the press conference and whatnot with Coach Satterfield. It seemed like it was kind of just a professional, kind of like he had been in those press conference situations before. Like he knows how to continue and sustain a program after, I mentioned it before taking over at App State. I mean, Jerry Moore is known as the greatest coach in Appalachian State history. And Luke Fickell is the greatest coach in Cincinnati history. So, yes, they're different situations as far as level of talent, level of competition. But as far as taking over a program and continuing to roll in the direction, do you see any of those connections there? And then the Louisville thing happened. And remember, the Louisville thing, he took over in 2019 at Louisville. Well, guess what happened in 2020? It was COVID. And Ryan, I mean, can you imagine like a first-year head coach?
Yeah,
taking over.
Pass on that one. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And then the very next year, you're hit with COVID, and you've got to figure out how you're going to continue to build your side of a program and get your new recruits implemented into the program while working out from home and not knowing if you're going to even have a season that following year. So a lot of different things going on there. But Aaron, just kind of touch on your thoughts because obviously Satterfield isn't that big splash hire, but I think he has a good chance to continue to keep the ball rolling of what's going on right now in Cincinnati.
I think it's really going to come down to how he navigates this very large pool of money he has available for his assistants, who he brings in, who he retains, and what they're able to do very quickly in regards to the transfer portal and before it's time for the letters of intent to be signed, next week? So the window is small. So I know you say he has a very good chance to keep the ball rolling. I disagree. I don't know that there's a very good chance. I think he has a chance to keep the ball rolling. Right. Well, I don't know that I'd go so far as to say it's a very good chance. I think that the time constraints, especially after losing a whole day of the portal being open today due to the dog and pony show that you have to do when you introduce a new head coach to the fray, it's a lot to ask to continue to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, and you got that jump right into the Big 12.
Right.
So, like, our players, that's a big jump for them. And they also don't kind of have, like, a guide, a leader right now. Coach Combs is kind of stepping in, but that's more just about the bowl game, getting them ready to just go out there and be able to play Sadie's boys. So, it's that'll be interesting. But
am I allowed to just disagree with a point of something?
Yes.
You're such a king asshole, Chad.
I don't think the portal opening today is as big a deal as like common conception. And I've seen this. This isn't an Aaron thing. I've seen this everywhere. It's going to be who you hire because let's not fool ourselves here. The portal opened a long time ago. It just wasn't public. right? So it's going to depend on who your staff is, how quickly you can assemble that staff. And I'm sure there's already 2 or 3 or 4 guys that he knows are going to be here with him that are already on the phones talking Cincinnati. But my point being, Ryan, when do you think the portal opened? A month ago? 6 weeks ago?
The portal's always open.
Right? So a lot of these guys going into the portal already, at least while they don't, some of them already know where they're going. Most of them have an idea of who is going to be involved. And almost always that is based on past relationships from when you were recruited the first time. So your staff is going to be like, I guess what I'm saying is just the misconception of like whether he was hired Saturday, he was hired today. That part only matters in the speed in which you're able to hire and get your staff in place, because it's at least at the very beginning. And what I mean by at the very beginning, the guys going in now have known they're going in the portal for weeks, months, years. I know a basketball guy, Ryan, a basketball assistant. He used to have a list of kids that were playing 16 and under and 17 and under AAU games in front of us that would be in the portal in 3 years. That kid's been in 2 high schools. He's on his 3rd AAU team. There's no chance he makes it through his freshman year wherever he goes. So he's really talented. Keep an eye on him. And he did. He had a list and like tracked this sophomore going to be junior in high school will be in the transfer portal in 3 years. So awesome. It's a science. Like these guys know, and it wasn't the transfer portal then. It was just the kid was going to transfer. They know, like they've been talking to high school coaches. They've been talking to handlers. They're not allowed to talk to the kids. So day one it's just different than like the way people see it. Like people think like coaches are just sitting there because what you can do when a guy goes in the portal, like his phone number is attached to his name in the portal. Mm-hmm. So coaches can just click and there's the kid's email. There's the kid's phone number. They're not cold calling at this point. Yeah. Now, maybe 2 or 3 weeks from now, if you haven't solved all your needs and a new guy jumps in the portal, maybe you're like, I'll shoot that kid a text, see what's going on. But a lot of the stuff is the portal like tender and teams swipe right or left. Kind of. It's not a terrible analogy, kind of. It's like a portal where you know half of the girls, right?
And you can also like, and you can open up the range to the entire country.
Right. It's a good analogy. It's not bad. I like it. But just I think that space needs some clarification, because I do think people just think like the portal opened at midnight and coaches just started like cold calling. Like it was Aaron, you've done this, the sales list where here's call Aaron Adams. Hi, Aaron. But like it's not, and it'll fun? Get there.
It's
not fun at all. It'll get there. Like I said, as we get later, like down the road, when they don't have like as much of an idea on the guys that are going in, if they still have needs. But like today was about like a dog and pony show, kind of, you know. I don't know if I've explained it all that well, but I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. Yes, I think the main thing with the transfer portal is obviously if you have an established, coaching staff who has those previous connections and whatnot, then it makes it a whole lot easier to navigate through the portal. But it also opens up opportunities to plug holes that might open by these different, movements of staff taking over this, that, and the other. Because, you don't have to just rely on last second, high school decommits or things of that sort. You can easily plug a hole if, say Jaquan Shepard keeps his name in the portal and does leave. you're able to kind of plug that hole with the cornerback on the roster that can move up, or one that's in the portal out of the thousands of names that are already in there. So,
one, Daniel, do not ever call a high school recruit. They are kids. Ever, 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 do not ever call a 17-year-old that you don't know. Any idea why Ryan Coe is going into the portal? I don't know specifically, Paul. I haven't talked to Ryan, but what I would say is, remember, Ryan Coe was recruited here by Brian Mason. Like, Brian Mason was pretty much all the contact Ryan Coe had in regards to UC, besides Case and Pfeiffer, until he got here. Now Mason's gone. Now his head coach is gone. Like, I guarantee you, with the leg he showed this year,
yeah,
been a whole bunch of people on the phone with Ryan Coe today.
There's going to be a lot of programs across the country that have spots. That's what we did with Sam Crosa when we brought in Crosa in, like an experienced guy who's proven
what
he
you
can
did with
do
Coe.
it. Yeah, and he had an even better year at a bigger level. So, I mean, it makes sense. There's going to be maybe bigger schools or just schools in general trying to pull him out. So he must be hearing some stuff that's making him want to test the waters. So
I will say Louisville's got a kicker. He's a junior. James Turner went. He's had a pretty doggone good soccer. Had a good year last year. 19 of 21 on field goals. 35 of 36 on extra points. So if that is something that sticks, where Coe is gone, and Coe became Mr. Automatic throughout the year. If James Turner had a good relationship with Coach Satterfield at Louisville, then who knows? You know,
is that something they'd even test though? Think about it, like a kicker. We might as well just, if we have a good kicker where we're going, we might as well try to keep him instead of trying to readjust our old kicker to a new school or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I completely agree, but
that's what makes me think that they're not like making him leave or anything, you know?
Oh no, they're not making Coe leave. But I'm just saying, if he enters the portal and he stays there, and James Turner doesn't like the new staff or something along those lines at Louisville, I'm pretty sure it's a pretty easy move for him to come across the river and just go right there to good old Cincinnati. But
uprights are uprights, Brent. You just got to kick the ball through them.
Just gotta find the middle.
Drew, look, Drew, we're the captain now, and if you have something we're gonna take it. I know you were funny about UC hiring Scott Satterfield because you didn't like him. Drew's a friend of mine. He's a Louisville fan. I'm going to talk a little shit right now with the Keg and Nails game coming up in 12 days. If you got something we like, Drew, we're going to take it, and you're going to like it, like the Keg and Nails. I did confirm with Satterfield the plan is to bring the Keg and Nails to Boston.
I couldn't believe that story.
What, that they gave it to the manager?
One of the managers just took it home.
Yeah.
The equipment guys.
Yeah.
Paul, I don't know if I can go to practice in fall camp. He's been hired for 12 hours. I don't know yet. We'll get there. I think we'll be okay. I do think we'll be okay.
There you go. A couple things I thought was pretty funny was, first off, obviously the matchup between Cincinnati and Louisville in the Fenway Bowl, which a few things about the Fenway Bowl. The last 2 seasons it's been canceled due to COVID, and this year obviously it's on, but neither team has a coach pretty much. That will be a head coach that would be coaching in it. It'd be two interim coaches. Deion Branch, who was actually one of my friends growing up, was his next door neighbor was Deion Branch, and so that was always fun to kick it around with him. But anyway, Deion Branch versus Kerry Combs. How about that? Who would have thought that?
Yeah.
Who would have thought that leading into the offseason? But anyway, also the fact is that, and I'm sure Coach Satterfield didn't really think about it too much when he said he hasn't really broken down the current roster for the Bearcats, but someone tweeted a pretty funny tweet online. It was like, of course, Coach Satterfield hasn't really broken down Cincinnati's roster because they're the next team that Louisville has on the schedule, which I thought was just kind of a chuckle. Obviously, it was a bitter Louisville fan that, I guess that's what their entire group has been thinking collectively about it. But Chad, one big thing that came out in your interview with Coach Satterfield was the fact that he wants to keep Kerry Combs on staff. That's big time. So
it's from what I've heard, it's not going to be easy.
Right. I imagine that's the case. Would you say Kerry, Walt, any other names that just come off the top of your head that kind of work with that, keeping things kind of with the Cincinnati culture tradition throughout the entire, history of the program? Obviously Kerry and Walt line up perfectly with that, but any other names that you think just off the top of your head that,
I mean, Kerry and Walt, obviously, he hasn't met Walt yet, or at least hadn't. When we talked to him this afternoon, I'm sure he's done a bunch of stuff today. Nate Letton will be another one, but I think he has a tight end coach that he's had for a little while, so I don't know if that guy potentially is coming with him. That's one of the things we're going to have to track. We're still in the early stages of that. We do think there's a pretty good chance Brian Brown and Pete Thomas come with him. That's the defensive coordinator and cornerbacks coach, and Brian Brown, the quarterback coach is Pete Thomas. So we think those guys will be with him. Not sure on Lance Taylor, his offensive coordinator. You have to remember, I think, like Todd, thank you, R.I.P. Kirstie Alley. That's a sad one. She was very good on Cheers. Very good on Cheers, and has been around a long time. Daniel Burke, Gino, I think, is probably gone. Money won't be an issue, Jeff. I mean, that's 7.2 is like $2 million more than Luke's assistant pool. So I don't think that the assistant salaries are going to be much of a concern.
Yeah, I mean that was obviously a big bump, but you see Satterfield was what 3.4, which is obviously down from what Luke was getting paid. But it does get $100,000 bump each year, so those things got to play out.
It's all about money for Kerry. No, I don't think that. Where else would Kerry go? Kerry Combs has coached a lot of winning football.
He didn't say it's all about money. In all fairness, he did say, "Is it all about money?"
Yeah, is it all about money? I tried to say it as a question, I guess. Which
it's written as a question.
I know, but I don't know that it's all about money for Kerry. I'm just saying Kerry is going to have options. He's won it when he was an assistant in Cincinnati. He won when he was an assistant at Ohio State. He won when he was an assistant for the Tennessee Titans. Like, that's a guy that has a reputation, one, as a good coach, but two, as a great recruiter. So I don't want people to think like, it's an easy, like, no-brainer. Like, they're going to have to work to keep Kerry, I think.
I think it's one of the most important keeps they can have.
Yeah, because I mean, you look back at all the players on the team pretty much at Louisville right now, and all the recruits that he brought in. It's a lot of North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, obviously that whole South the California connection that Chad mentioned. You do get a lot of Kentucky in there as well, and then a handful of Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. So
he's going to have to hire a couple guys on staff that are strong,
right,
in that 300-mile radius that Luke Fickell has always talked about. And
which he had a fair amount of Kentucky, players on his team. So I wonder if that's kind of he did a good job kind of reaching out to the region there in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just kind of a where he was located thing, and maybe he's going head to head against
I will tell you this though,
Fickell and his staff. Then it's he kind of said, all right, well, you guys kind of have Cincy under control. We're gonna work on just kind of trying to get Louisville under control. And all right,
recruiting in Kentucky is a lot different than recruiting Ohio. Everybody in the region is heavily involved in the state of Ohio, so he's going to have to get a couple aces in Ohio. Not just like you can't get a couple jacks to recruit Ohio. You got to get a couple aces in your hand if you're going to go into Springfield. And
unless you're playing euchre, then you can have some jacks. Some good cards right there.
They are the right and left.
Right and left, the Bowers, baby.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I agree, Chad. And obviously that'd be who Kerry Combs is. He would be the right Bower, if you will.
Yep.
Left Bower would be another young up and comer.
I played poker, aces.
Yeah, I got you. So as far as like old coaches on other staffs, because I mean, I feel like a reunion type feel. I don't know if he does bring in, Brian Brown from Louisville as is kind of reported, kind of take over defense coordinator. I think that would cover up a couple of slots that people could see as like a former coach or former player that might be elsewhere. I don't know. This is one of the more exciting parts for me is how, these new hires fill out their staff and how things kind of the trickle effect after that. So it'll be something to watch.
Go get the Wisconsin DC.
Yeah. Just got done saying how bad their D has been. Their D was second in the country in sacks and third in the country in interceptions this year. So they had a rough start the first couple years. Their D was not great, but they had a breakout year this year. And he said the one thing that I think Ryan will probably agree with. I think Ryan will agree with here. Their philosophy on defense is aggressive, aggressive, aggressive. Get after the quarterback, force the issue, don't sit back. For them, their biggest problem at Louisville had been they were maybe over aggressive, where they gave up too many big plays.
Yep.
But I like hearing they're going to be aggressive and they're going to play downhill and they're going to attack, because we've talked about this, Ryan, that's when this group has been at their best, is when they've been aggressive. Now, I think we'll probably see a four-man front. They played a lot of 4-2-5 at Louisville. Maybe that'll change in the Big 12, where there's most of the Big 12. Like I love, we saw a lot like at the end of the year. They're going to have to play a four-man front in the Big 12. Almost everybody in the Big 12 is 3-3-5. It's not true. Like football is going to three-man fronts because of the spread. But I just think defensively, I want to see him attack, Ryan.
Yeah, I do too. Like we live on those havoc plays, but we managed to do it with giving up less explosive. Yeah, and I think you just got to realize how much defensive talent we lose with Coach Fickle, Hitchler, and Mike Tressel, and Freeman the year before. Like that, those are like some defense. Those are some really, really smart, really well developed, and they're very good defensive coaches. So that's my biggest concern about this coach is his defensive resume and who he brings in to coach defense. And I think that is what was going to – I thought that was going to be our biggest strength in the Big 12. Going into a conference that doesn't play defense, I thought that was going to be our biggest strength, being able to go in there and show them how real defense is played. And now it kind of feels like you're back on the square one with everyone else. So prioritizing, football is simple. You got to score more than the other team. So if you have a good defense, it makes it easier on your offense. And prioritizing that and keeping the havoc involved, but still playing good, sound defense, no big plays, no explosives. That's what they're going to have to do differently and to help us here at Cincy.
Thanks for the donation, Nicholas. Nicholas asks any word on what Gino is planning on doing.
Finding another job, offensive coordinator, maybe a MAC head coach as these openings. It's not going to be here.
Yeah. So let's page as well to the current team. Obviously, more names have trickled into the transfer portal throughout the day. Jaquan Shepard being a big one. A couple other. We've already mentioned Ryan Coe. But Ryan, have you been able to kind of go in your little interweb of players on the team and whatnot, and you don't have to throw out names or anything, and kind of get kind of the pulse of what everyone's thinking with the new hire and as new staff gets pieced together and kind of what the feel is around that side of the program?
Yeah, there's excitement. They think this is a good quality coach. They like I talked to some of the offensive guys, like they like his offensive mind. I think, and then defensive guys didn't really elaborate too much, but I think overall it's just kind of like excitement, and they're not like worried. It's kind of like a new challenge. I know there's a bunch of guys who are using this as a chance they can reprove themselves. So overall good, solid excitement. Nothing like panic, no like extreme jumping off the walls, so happy or anything.
Also, like if you guys want to make sure we get to your question, there's a little right below the chat. There's a little $sign you can donate. That way we can see the donation and get straight to it. The chat is again moving rather fast with 300 of you in here. So if you want to make sure we get to it, the donation's the best way to do it.
So the obviously it was awesome seeing Dante Corleone slowly becoming the trailblazing leader of this current team. On just I saw someone tweet at Dante saying like, you got to get out of there. That coach is trash. And Dante just tweeted back, all in. So it's just like, it seems like there are just a core of them that are kind of banding together and saying, hey, as you mentioned, Ryan, just the ability to kind of prove themselves yet again with new staff and new opportunities. But also, Chad, did you get the sense just kind of around just just talking with Satterfield today that those players that have put their name in the portal and the recruits who have decommitted that were previously committed to the Bearcats, do you feel like that will be a priority to try and rebuild that relationship back? Or do you think it's more of we got to continue to just look for who wants to come in and who wants to be a Bearcat?
I mean, you'll meet with guys and you'll have guys that you definitely are like, look, we want you around. But you can't waste time swimming upstream.
Right.
Like you have to be able to pretty quickly evaluate, is this guy open to coming back, or is his mind made up that, he's going to test the waters and see what else is out there. So it's a fine line. You're just going to have to be quick on the trigger to figure out, like, this guy is all in. These are the guys that are all out. We have to find the guys in the middle that we want to keep, because I'm sure there's a lot of guys in the middle that you might not want to, that don't fit your scheme, don't fit your system, aren't the type of guys that you're looking for in your locker room. And I don't think there's many of those. As Ryan knows, it's a pretty good locker room.
Yeah.
There's always a couple knuckleheads, right? Like,
yeah.
That's just the nature of percentages.
Yeah,
dealing with
130
guys 80 of them on scholarship. There's going to be a couple knuckleheads here and there. But you have to kind of sort through and think, okay, like this is a guy we want, this is a guy we don't. And what's wild is sometimes those reads are wrong, right? Like we've talked about this famously on this show before. They weren't all in on James Wiggins for like a year because he smiled too much, right? Like that was the whole, like they thought they eventually or affectionately earned the nickname Smiley, but they didn't think he was as serious as they wanted the guys to be.
Yeah.
That's also the nature of like the football guy, right, Ryan? Meathead.
Yeah.
That guy smiles too much. He's not about
the intensity of Coach Fickle.
Right.
That motherfucker's smiling whenever I talk to him.
Get him out. Get him out. I just smile, Coach. That's not good enough. We don't smile around here.
Oh man. Well, it's obviously going to be a bit of a while until we start to see what this team forms together and who obviously moves at quarterback and whatnot. Chad, I think on the board you mentioned that obviously there's a couple of quarterbacks that are in the portal that have been tied to Cincinnati. I think if they're being tied that quickly, that means that obviously could be either Satterfield or whoever else, maybe obviously Pete Thomas or someone reached out to them rather quickly. Is it something along the lines of, if this new staff can get someone to roll in with before kind of getting to know the whole team currently, they'll add those players just to kind of
I don't know, Brent.
fill in the holes.
It's been a day.
We're just having discussion. Just discussion.
I know, but I don't know I don't have the answer to those things yet.
Right. Yeah. So
I don't know the recruiting staff. I don't know I don't have a history to go on. You know what I mean? Like when we talked about the timeline for this coaching search and how it might play out, I had the basketball coaching search to go on.
Right.
And I said, here's how that happened. Here's how I think this will happen. Or at least if this follows that, like, we know. We haven't dealt with Scott Satterfield here at Cincinnati yet in terms of being able to say, okay, this is how he handled things last year. Let's see how it evolves this year, and you can kind of adjust. Again, and the other thing, like we talked about, that depends on who you hire. Like you might start the interview process, right? And you find a linebackers coach that's like, I got, I'm here, I'm recruiting to this school, and I've got these 3 guys in the portal that are getting ready to commit. If you hire me, I can bring them with me to your school. Like that's how this shit works now.
yeah.
Especially like it used to be like freshmen. I can deliver this guy to your recruiting class. Now it can be like, I can deliver this junior that started, a year and a half in the SEC.
Yeah.
And then, maybe that makes you, especially with that assistant pool, makes you a little bit more attractive. Makes you able to, all right, well, maybe we'll give this guy an extra $250,000 than what anybody else has given him to come here and bring those 3 kids in the portal with him.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you obviously saw Deion Sanders made a pretty quick splash with it's like the book of business that you bring if you're going from one company to the next. And nowadays it's going to grow even more. So we'll see what happens. Obviously the bowl game, that's another interesting side note. The 2 teams on the same sideline. I mean, Ryan, that's got to be one of the more strange things you've ever seen, right? Having 2 teams both on the same sideline. It's kind of,
hilarious, Tom. I just learned who Satterfield was today, but I actually covered when he finished number 2 behind Luke Fickell in 2016.
When he was last courted by the Bearcats.
Yeah. Are you saying I'm wrong that I'm not going to make judgments on how he runs the program at Cincinnati until I see how he runs the program at Cincinnati? Like, I don't think that would be fair to answer questions about what I don't know. So if I don't know, I say I don't know, and then I explain why. That's how we do things here.
Fair.
Go ahead, Brent.
Oh, I think Ryan was getting ready to say how weird it is.
The sidelines.
Oh, I just know our guys, they like to do a little talking, and I'm sure Louisville likes to do some talking too. So it'll be interesting to see, if there's a couple big hits or some shit talk on the field, if that'll carry over, if they're going to have to get some like security in between to prevent anything.
Are you upset he's not going, Royer?
I think it's the
just
safe
to make
play.
it even more interesting. Oh,
I would love, you know what I would love if he would have said like just go all in on us and just say fuck it and just buy all the way in. I would love that, but I respect his safe play though. It's understandable.
What he said later is really why he's not going though, right? You only have 2 official visit weekends between now and signing day.
Yeah.
So if he goes to that bowl game as somebody that's not going to coach, he's just going to go and like observe and watch, you're giving up an official visit weekend.
Yeah.
And you only get 2 before signing day. So like you said, like they're going to have a party, I'm sure, and they'll have the recruits and their families there, and they'll have the bowl game on and they'll watch it. But going all the way to Boston is going to kind of throw a serious monkey wrench in how much you're able to recruit at this point. And we've all agreed that that's like the one thing that matters more than anything right now is getting this roster stabilized quickly.
Yeah.
Which is the main thing with like Cincinnati didn't imagine they'd be playing their bowl game on December 17th, which is random. Obviously one of the earlier bowl games. So I think it is kind of a blessing in disguise to have, Carey be able to go out and coach the team and kind of handle bowl practices and whatnot while Coach Satterfield assembles a staff enough where he can gather people to go out and recruit and try and continue to build it up. But I do hope that under the table, maybe he does slide like a playbook or something to his new team. I don't know if he feels indebted to the players over there at Louisville still, but I'm pretty sure he has a good idea of what a game plan out of the Cardinals looks like, but who knows? We'll see.
I'm sure him and Carey will talk, share some stories.
I mean, the line went sharp to the Cardinals after the hire.
Really?
Yeah, it was like opened 1.5 Cincinnati. Now it's 2.5 Louisville.
That's weird.
Yeah.
They think Louisville's 3 points better because their coach left to go to the school on the other sidelines?
It might have gotten to like even, and then it boosted up afterwards. I don't know. It's weird. I agree. But who knows?
You going in the portal, Aaron?
No, it's just been a long fucking day, man.
For everybody else to understand, Aaron's little one is not feeling well. So he's had a sick baby all day. And I shouldn't have yelled. I didn't even yell at him. I just disagreed with him in the beginning.
You told me my opinion was wrong.
No, I just disagreed with it. I didn't tell you it was wrong. I said at commiserate levels of success that Scott Satterfield had been a lot more successful than Sean Lewis, which I don't know that there's much of an argument with.
In all honesty, I've done all I can NIL wise with Chad and Aaron. Gave him a big NIL donation over the weekend.
You did.
And yet here we are still squabbling. I mean, come on, guys. It's supposed to be one big unified group. But yeah, no, I agree.
It took me a long ass time to find this stupid image, but there it is. The Fenway Bowl with the sideline.
Yeah, so there's just like there's nowhere over here for there to be sidelines. So one here and one there.
It just sucks because I wish they could have done like one of the goalposts on the green monster, and if you kick it over the green monster, you get like an additional point or something, like a Fenway Bowl exclusive. Yeah,
I think Coe probably could have done it.
I mean, is he? Oh shoot! So Coe's probably not playing in the game.
I mean, like I guess the university can let guys in the transfer portal play, but if I was in the portal, I'm not playing. You imagine you're in the portal and like you blow out a knee.
Yeah.
And now once you go in the portal, the school that you're at doesn't have to take you back. They can just be like, there's your life lesson for you. Shit's tough. Like,
buddy.
Yeah. You were gonna bail on us and now you blew out your knee and you want us to take you back? Like, here's you can finish your degree, but you can't finish your degree on this football team. So if your intention is to transfer, I don't know how you play in the bowl game.
Right. But if you do enter your name into the portal, but you are leaving the options open type situation where you can come back and, maybe, Satterfield's in conversations with you and whatnot, then maybe you do play in the game. You know what I mean? And it's kind of a long play by the player. I want to see how things go after signing day and whatnot. Because I mean, you saw that with the basketball team. It's obviously kind of different with the size of the rosters, but when Wes came in, it was his first thing he did was meet with all the players in the portal and convinced pretty much all of them to come back. So
was it the Houston game 2 years ago, Royer, where Ben Bryant had entered the portal but was still the backup quarterback? Was that the 21 AAC championship?
Oh,
or the 20?
It would have
20.
been
It was the bowl game in 20.
Tulsa, and then the
Yeah.
Georgia Peach Bowl.
I think so, yeah.
I think he was in the portal before the Tulsa game because you had to get your name out there so you could, enroll and be ready to go at the next semester. And then he was there for the Peach Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he was in the portal but was available for the Peach Bowl. Like, that's up to the school and the kid whether they want to do that or not. It's rare. Like, if you're in the portal, you're really going to go back and like go through all the bowl practices and the game planning, and especially like if you're not like, I don't get me started on the fans and their treatment of Ben Bryant and how much UC actually meant to Ben Bryant. Makes my blood boil, Royer. Makes my blood boil a little bit,
man. I've had plenty of rants this season on this show about it.
They want to talk about Bearcats and people that love UC, and I tell you what, there ain't many people that, at least until this year, loved UC more than Ben.
He really did. He really did.
Saying.
That's why he came back.
Right.
This year will go down as one of the weirder years when it's all said and done, but one where I mean, it's still a successful season. 9-3, obviously not as successful as we want it to be. And you bring home the keg of nails, and Mr. Super Sticker, Daniel.
There you go, Daniel.
Who just came back from 5-minute timeout, made a donation. Well played.
And yes, Daniel, I did play ball back in the day. Won a state championship. Lost on a heartbreaker my senior year though, in semi-state. So yeah, little ball in my history. But yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a long process. Obviously, I think a lot of people want some quick fixes, if you will. I know I do, but it's we'll see. As of now, it's going to be preparation for the bowl game.
You going to Boston, Brent?
Probably not. If it was going to be a game around New Year's, I was going to be able to go to it, but I'm flying out to Florida the very next weekend, so it's like kind of hard to stack trips on top of trips. And
humble brag.
What? You go to Florida too. Your family lives down
I'm busy going to Florida. I can't stack up these trips.
You go down to Florida too, though. That's just visiting family. That's all it is. But yeah, we'll see. Who knows? Maybe a last second Boston with the crew. Are you guys planning on going at all, or?
I don't think I can, because the transplant is coming up. Kelly's got a bunch of testing and stuff to do, and I just don't. It's the same thing as Maui. Like, can I really be at this point in time with everything that's going on? Be 12, 15 hours away. If something happens, I couldn't live with myself. So
right.
For right now, I'm kind of grounded, but we will have a watch party at the Holy Grail, December 17th, 11 a.m.
And then will you leave early to make it over to the LaSalle basketball game?
No. Why?
Well, because it's at 2 p.m. tip-off, so it's kind of quite a headache.
I thought you meant LaSalle High School. I was like, why would I be going to LaSalle?
No.
The LaSalle UC game, I don't know. I'm guessing what I'll probably have to do is do the first half at the Grail and then head up to campus.
I wonder if they can request to the ESPN Plus people, can we push this back like 2 hours?
Yeah,
somehow?
Can we do this at 4 o'clock? I mean, they have before.
Right.
So I just figured it out. Bridgetown Daniel, chill out.
That's you, Mr. Burkus.
Danny figured it out.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Chill out.
There we go.
He knows why. Josh Wiley, LaSalle High School basketball legend. Honestly, I was thinking, like, is Josh getting his jersey retired by LaSalle basketball? Like, Why would I be going to the LaSalle basketball game?
Right.
It's been a long week, man.
Yeah.
You should have been like, you're not going to the UC game, and I would have like instantly picked up on what you were like throwing down. Just like I'm just gonna stroll into the west side at the LaSalle game. I'm putting myself in timeout. You guys carry on.
Well, guys, one question that was brought up to Satterfield, I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts. One question was, if he thinks that fans' expectations should be tempered a little bit as far as record goes in his first couple of seasons, because obviously the level up in competition with the Big 12 and this, that, and the other. And obviously he gave a very, coach speak type answer where, they want to win every game and whatnot. So, they don't really have that mentality of, let's go in and try and just make a bowl type feel to it. But what is like realistically, and obviously we all want to just go undefeated and really hit the Big 12 with a giant splash. But realistically, what are you expectation wise now that the coach is in place? We don't know the team yet. Obviously, we'll touch on this again as the offseason really progresses. But realistically, kind of just first thoughts with obviously with the new hire and whatnot. What expectations, if you will, Aaron? We'll start with you.
As far as record goes?
No, that question was asked to Scott Satterfield. Do you think fans need to adjust their points of view on wins, losses with this new step in the Big 12?
I mean, I don't think it necessarily changes with the coaching hire than with the Big 12. I mean, with the Big 12, I think right now, first year, the way things currently stand with Fickle leaving and the roster being question marks all over the place until we see how the portal goes, how what the recruiting class even looks like as more players decommit tonight even. As I just saw, Nick Oliveira has decommitted. Yeah. I think you'd be happy to get 6-6 right now. But I think that you have to expect those expectations to continue to build. I mean, you don't get a long leash here, especially with I don't know. I still, like I said, the hire didn't move the needle for me. So yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear that. Ryan?
It just makes me sick to my stomach just thinking about that, to be honest with you.
Right. I know.
I'm kind of like kidding, but I'm not. It's like it just makes me sick thinking about everything that was done in this program. Now we're talking about like
should fans
battling to get fucking 500 now. I think he needs to have the expectation that there can be no drop off. There needs to be a mindset that a confidence, a slight arrogance that I'm going to get the job done. I'm going to win just as many games. I'm going to win more games than Coach Fickle. Because that's the kind of, we need that swag right now. We're a limp dog right now. We just kind of got our ass beat. We got to get back in the fight quick. We can't be settling for 4-8, because once you go 4-8, you're getting your ass beat in a new conference. Getting back up to 500 the year before that, it's just, you can't dig yourself in a hole. We got to hit the ground running. I know he believes that, but it's got to be important, sticking with the culture. Yeah. And you can't let, especially with the guy, you'll have like a mix of guys that know how to win, and it's going to be that much like they won't really know how to handle going like 5-7, 4-8. God help us if that happens. So it's just, my expectation, if we're over 500, I'll be happy. But I mean, it just hurts me even saying that. So we gotta,
right.
I don't know. It's an adjustment for me. I'm still trying to wrap my head around not having Coach Fickle and, going to a new conference. So we got to stress the importance from the jump. Can't get in the hole. So
yeah. Well, I like what Nick Lovett said. Mentioned obviously Sonny Dykes goes from SMU, where Cincinnati stomped them, and they stopped their television show that they had on ESPN right afterwards, and as a result, he then goes and takes the TCU job, and now he's playing in the college football playoff. So, it's something that can still happen. And the players that do decide to stay at Cincinnati, they're all winners, and that's the main thing. Is just having, we've said culture quite a lot, but the culture of winning is a real thing. You can say culture this, culture that, but winning is different above all else. So if you can keep a good core of those players that know how to win, know what it takes to win, and then add talent needed, then I'm right there. I'm optimistic all the time. I think I'm on Ryan's side as well. It's just all about winning and do what it takes to win and go forward with that. And that's why I did like what Satterfield said. He said we want to win every game. Where some people might say, we're just trying to become better humans. We're just trying to become better people. And
not at this level.
Winning fixes everything.
Yeah. So that's the main thing. So we'll see as Satterfield right down here, right beneath me, gets ready to take over and continue this strong movement toward Cincinnati. That's a winning program, and one that has. They showed the graphic. I saw it tweeted a couple of times that Cincinnati has 10 win seasons since 2010 or something like that, and Louisville had 7 all time or 6 all time. So this is a winning program, and it's one that can continue to keep the momentum going forward. And you know what? Get the players in, get the staff in, get recruiting, get your scheme in, and we'll see what happens and develop the players in a long shot as well. Let's see here.
Just can't give an inch to losing culture. You can't adapt. You can't accept losing. We can't accept losing as fans. That's just going to holding our coaches, our players, accountable to a winning culture. That's what you need. Just keep the pressure on, because that's in the end, it's going to make everybody better for it. So I can't stomach going 6-6, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think we should be sitting back and be like, let's give this guy time. Obviously, we're not going to be like jackasses about it and be like, fire him next year. But, it should always be about winning. It shouldn't be about, let's take a 2-year gap and get our asses beat for 2 years. Like, that's good for nothing. So keep the pressure on, have high expectations, and always support them. So,
yeah. So I think as well is just the Big 12 momentum is still there. It's still, you get the feels, the NIL initiative, and since Reigns opened up, that's still another forward momentum thing. And it's just the NIP's going to be rocking. It's going to be a chance to continue to build on what has already been established with Fick. And when Fick took over, it was a 4-8 dumpster fire type situation after Tuberville, and this is the furthest thing from that. So continue to keep pushing and continue to keep winning. Do what it takes to win, because a lot of players on the team will know what it does take to pull out these games and pull out these wins.
Yeah, and we don't have like the type of players we had under coming in with Luke's first year. So I don't think it's the same kind of situation. We have a winning culture. Like, all those guys are back. We're not trying to weed out some of the just terrible culture we had because of Tuberville. So I think there is, let's be patient. Yeah, you have some argument there, but at the same time, we've built all this for a reason, and it's all still there. So we're not just going to surrender to the shit show of Tuberville and be like, oh, it'll be normal to go 4-8. No, it won't be fucking normal to go fucking 4-8. Like, that pisses me off a lot, and I don't want any bit of that team to think that it's going to be okay to go out there and drop games like how we used to, because they all have been a part of winning. They know what it takes to win. They know the culture, and a new coach is going to come in. We got to try to hold him to that standard, and that's bottom line, in my opinion.
Dave, are you filling in for Chad? Is Chad out or?
No, I don't think so.
What's going on? Did you finish the multiple hours of Satterfield tape that you've been able to watch?
No, I've not watched any.
What are your thoughts? Obviously, you were on this morning with Chad.
Well,
as you take the full day, dissected everything. What's the feels now?
Yes. First off, I need to answer Daniel's question. I do know John Ledford. We went to high school together. So whenever I respond, it comes in as Bearcat Journal, not me, not Dave. So I think because I signed in on the Bearcat Journal account or whatever. But I don't know. I'm just kind of like right down the middle on it. Like, I think it's a good hire. I think we won't know if it's a great hire or a bad hire until you start playing actual football games.
Yeah.
I think the more I've kind of looked at the whole situation on the whole, to me, it ended up being a pretty shallow candidate pool. You usually have one or two pretty substantial group of 5 candidates. Luke was one of those, clearly. Ended up being one of those. And I think John Cunningham went with safe. I don't see the opportunity necessarily for like the truly bad, but I don't know if I see the opportunity for like the truly extraordinary either. I think it's I think he relied heavily and especially on Power 5 experience.
Yeah.
And I understand it. I may not have done that personally. Like, I think your variances with some of the other potential candidates were greater, but I think you maybe had an opportunity to have something really, really good happen because that person was coming into a situation where they were just dealing with so much more resources, so much more attention, so much more everything that could have elevated them.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be an assistant, whether that be a MAC head coach. Hey Ed, what did Daniel? Is he a bum? No, John Ledford was. I have not talked to John in a long time. He was not a bum when I knew him. But yeah, I just think there's things about Scott that I really like, but then there's things that I will need to see. I'm sure you guys have touched on a lot of them. Recruiting the state of Ohio, recruiting the city of Cincinnati, definitely. You could say you want to do those things, but you still have to produce.
Right.
I think a lot of coaches say they want to do certain things and then they fall back onto their bread and butter. They fall back onto their relationships that they already have, which is a lot easier than trying to make new relationships. But I also think that he's got some organizational and some experience in that level that will give him a good starting point where other candidates probably didn't, and especially when it comes to going into the Big 12. And I think it is a bonus to have someone that's been at the Power 5 level, been fairly successful, nothing extraordinary, but again, Louisville was awful, and his best year actually was his first.
Can we stop this?
Stop what?
The whole, everybody now, if they don't like the hire, it's Tuberville. They just hired Tuberville again. It's the laziest shit. I've seen it all week. It drives me absolutely insane. Anybody that's been
similarities.
Anybody that's been a head coach for more than 6 weeks, if their name came up, another Tuberville. Here we go with Tuberville again. If they're over 40, one, they're a man because they're 40. And two, automatically, here we go. Got a Tuberville vibe. What about this guy gives you a Tuberville vibe?
Yeah, I don't see that at all.
It's just got to be age.
Not even old.
He's 49. I know he's 49, but I'm just saying, like people will just look at him and he's like, this.
I mean, the Tuberville. I mean, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I was excited about Tuberville because
I think everyone was. Yeah,
it seemed that it was like a movement away from what we had done so many times before. And I don't fault them for trying that. I fault, in hindsight, it's obviously easy to say those things. In hindsight, having about a 24-hour search and helping your friend out was more of the issue to me. After we found out exactly what happened and what didn't happen with the search. But it felt like every candidate that we knew of, and I'm sure some that we still don't know of and won't know of, there was no slam dunk. There was no grand slam. There was no, to me at least.
There was no Luke Fickell, one might say.
But on the day
Wisconsin, everybody said Wisconsin had a grand slam with Luke Fickell. That's the reference of it.
Yes.
But the day Luke was hired,
but that is because of what Luke and the team and everybody did in his time here.
Right, because when he was hired by Cincinnati, it was similar, kind of just like, I can talk myself into it, sentiments surrounding Luke joining the Bearcats type thing. That was a home run. Yeah,
John was having to probably have two things pulling at him at the same time. Do I value head coaching experience a lot, or do I value recruiting in the state of Ohio a lot? And which one of and I just think, and I thought this when it all started, I just thought that the head coaching experience was going to win out. And when he had the opportunity to hire someone with Power 5 head coaching experience, I think that ended up winning out over the MAC head coaching experience, and maybe the possibilities for coaching staff versus what the MAC guys had based on their career trajectory.
Yeah, I guess that part of experience is, it's like Satterfield's already done the MAC level type coaching, and he passed that test, and then he's gotten the Power 5 experience as well on top of it. You know what I mean? So it's like he was that MAC coach that they were looking at 4 or 5 years ago, or 6 years ago even, when he was getting looks by Cincy. So yeah.
I do want to get back to a paid-for question here. How happy were you, Dave, when Coach said they would be multiple on defense?
It's one of the top press conference cliches. It's we're going to be multiple on offense. We're going to be aggressive on defense. The other one is always, my wife's the real boss of the family when they do the introductions. That's a big Southern coach thing, is to be like, I'd like to thank my wife. She's the real boss of, the family and everything. But yeah, I mean, I think it was fine. Ryan, I do want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
It was interesting. John mentioned that he asked the players, I don't know if you saw this or heard this, asked the players what they, if they had some keywords or characteristics on a new coach, what would they be looking for? And from a pure player's perspective, if you were asked that, what are some things that you would have said?
Intense, competitive, passionate, loyal. Those would be the first ones that jump into my mind.
Yeah.
Number one. I think that was the best thing we had going: competition, competitiveness, top down on Fickell's staff. So, and that's why I was going on that big tirade about not losing when you go to the Big 12, because it's kind of just what's been ingrained in my and the guys' head. So I would hate to see, them forfeit that over to some bullshit losing mentality.
For sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mean, which is why I mentioned the Rick Minter post. I think I don't know. It looks like it was on Facebook, but it was sent to me. Did you see this at all, Dave? How he just mentioned that?
I didn't know.
Kind of Rick went on. It's a long post, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it kind of was just mentioning that the culture established at Appalachian State has withstood the test of time, beginning with Jerry Moore, passing down to a number of guys, and mentioned how it was taken over by Scott Satterfield and how he was able to kind of make the transition, and he had the tough, physical, disciplined, creative with his coaching staff and with his coaching, recruited the type of players that fit their culture and developed them physically and mentally, which sounds an awful lot like what Fickle did during his time here as well. So
yeah, I love hearing that.
Which is like, yes, the whole Louisville thing, you can't gloss over the Louisville tenure, and his overall record there is not one that you want to put on a poster and really talk about. But that's a hard time to coach. In 2019 leading into 2020, and your first recruiting class is that 2020, and then you got to learn to recruit during the COVID season as well. It's just that whole thing I feel like is really tough for a new staff to really walk into. So that's why I think you do look at what he was able to do at Appalachian State a little bit more, and then look at the fact that even this past year, I think he was getting kind of written off at Louisville throughout the first couple of weeks, and how they're out of conference was a gauntlet, and he really struggled through it. But then look what they were able to do throughout the latter half of the season, string together a lot of wins, become bowl eligible. I think a lot of people were calling him kind of just like a sitting duck, ready to get fired and bring in Jeff Brom. So that shows a lot of oomph within him, a lot of gonads, if you will, to step up to the talk surrounding him and lead a team to victories. So I think, yes, you can't just look at a broad look of records. You got to kind of dive into the story a little bit more and maybe take a closer look at what he was able to do at App State than kind of what Louisville was like.
Yeah, and I also just think sometimes you get to places and it's just not the right situation. And I'm not saying that has any effect on your data, how you coach and what your record is, but I think it seems fairly clear, at least to me, that something just didn't click with him at Louisville.
Right.
After 1 year, you usually don't start looking for other jobs. It's just not a super typical thing that happens. And I don't know if he just took that job because, and this happens all the time. You get that offer, you've got to take that job if you're at App State.
Right.
And maybe he got there and he was like, this just isn't for me. And so that's when he tried to go to the South Carolina job. And then I don't necessarily begrudge their fans for having the opinion that they did. Like, I'm sure our fans and most fans.
This fan base would have lost its damn mind if the coach, after 1 year, tried to get out. But I also think, Dave, like, there has to be some legitimacy to, I didn't realize how bad Bobby Petrino left this place.
He left it bad. I think there's
really bad.
There's definite legitimacy to that.
Really bad.
There's probably, the whole Jeff Brom thing hanging over your head is probably not an easy thing to deal with.
Especially after you pissed everybody off away.
They wanted him. They didn't get him when they hired you.
Right. And then you pissed everybody off your first off season.
Right.
With the South Carolina and not being honest about it either, right? Like,
so what did you learn from that? Louisville and UC are very, very similar schools, locations, things of that nature. So
we agreed that they should put new signs up on the road that somebody posted on the board today. Cincinnati, it's Louisville, but better.
Yeah. But like if something didn't vibe or didn't click in that situation, there's a lot of the same things that are here. Now the people are different. the leadership is different. The schools are different, or the boosters are different. We don't have a Jeff Brom legendary Cincinnati family coach looming, but like we're urban, we're a lot of the same things, and he is more of a, he coached in Boone. He's a North Carolina guy. Like, so if that's part of it, then there's going to be a lot of the same issues.
Yeah.
If that's not part of it, if it was purely like, man, this is just not a great situation, I don't want to be here anymore type of thing, then that's different. But yeah, I mean, he's going to have to take pieces of what Coach Fickle did. If you don't hire some more than just Kerry Combs with Ohio ties, then it's not going to work. You don't have to hire 9 assistant coaches with Ohio ties.
You need
like,
2, 3?
2 or 3 at least.
Yeah.
But like, if you don't do that, it's not going to work. We know, like, you can take things from other coaches that have been successful and still be yourself and still run your program.
Mm-hmm.
We know that having a heavy emphasis on Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, whatever that might be, is important. It helps this program. So how do you merge that with your Georgia, Florida, California stuff?
Yeah.
This program has been built, especially when Luke Fickle was here, on certain principles. Some of those should stay, but some of those are going, like, it's his program now. He's got to run it the way that he feels fit to run it.
Yeah.
So, I think the recruiting thing is the biggest piece. Like, I think he can coach offensive football, but going to the Big 12, we saw this year, they have to improve the talent on this roster. Whether that's through the portal, whether that's through high school players, it has to improve.
Yeah.
If you don't want to take some unrealistic dip the first year, like any way you slice it, like there's going to be a transition period, but what is that? Is that a season? Who knows?
I think we have good talent on this team. I think we're one Jake Renfro away from maybe 2 losses, maybe all 3 losses being wiped off the board. That's a hot take on my end, but I would stand by that. I think that had a big impact on our offense, and I think that it has. I do think that we would have won 2, if not 3, of the losses we have. But I think we have the talent. I think we had the talent even more before, and we had the ability to find guys and develop them really well. And I think, we kind of lost. We lost Fickle, we lost Brady, and it's going to be hard to replace. But you also have to stress on, like, I know everyone's all really big on the NIL and recruiting that he brings. If he can bring, is that same energy going to be there from, we got Cincy Reigns, we keep pumping them up. Like, we need them. Like, we need that same kind of energy that they had at Louisville with our boosters, with our NIL, our recruiting, and it's going to come down to, like, coaching ball and developing men in the weight room. Because that, like, I don't know. I just we get so excited. Oh, he's going to be better at this, better at that. But it needs to be about how he's going to put together 22 guys that can go win football games, and we can make every excuse for him in the book for what happened at Louisville. But he's got to put together a staff and get to work. And can't accept losing in any fashion. I know. It just keeps flashing through my head over and over.
I don't think anybody's saying you're going to accept losing.
It's just like Big 12, let's go 4-8. And year 2, it goes 6-6. I just think that's setting him up even for a rough tenure here. it's hard to dig yourself out of holes when you get losing in your first couple of years because it'd be harder to get recruits.
You
It's
guys
harder
did it in
to
1
keep
year.
energy. Yeah, we
You've
did
done that in
1
year.
I know.
You
but
should have lost 11 games in year 1, Royer.
I know, but
Should
that's
have been 1 and
saying
11.
that's saying that Coach Satterfield's the same as Coach Fickle, and we don't know that.
They don't have to be the same. They just have to be successful.
The same level of success within them, and that's big shoes to fill. And we
Did
can't
Scott
just
like
assume,
my visor?
Yeah,
Timmy, thank you for the $5. Did Scott like my visor selfie? I guarantee he did not see my visor selfie. He does not sit at home at night and scroll through my Twitter feed like the old coach. Did I tell you, Royer? That's how I found out.
What? I didn't hear.
Last night, right before my head hit the pillow, I got a text from some guy whose name kind of rhymes with Dick Trickle, and told me to keep my eye on Satterfield. And then I woke up this morning at 7:30 to a phone call that it was Satterfield.
There you go.
Wouldn't it be Duke Trickle?
Duke Trickle, yeah, that's him.
Duke Trickle. Ryan, are you doing the carnivore diet? Is that straight beef broth that you're down over there?
It's secret. I'm not telling anyone what it is.
All right, we'll talk off air.
You a visor guy, Dave?
No.
We got BCJ. We got BCJ visors coming.
You look like Tom Bolden for some reason.
Bald people do not wear visors.
Right.
You guys need the
exact
protection on
opposite
top.
reason for a hat for the bald people. No,
Yeah.
I used to have a sick Cincy visor. It was red like that, but it had like the Jordan sign on the side. It said Bearcats on the back. See Paul right there. Oh, it was nasty. And it was like one of those like fitted, stretchy ones. And then I don't know. Probably a crazy night out, and I lost it. And
Duke Trickle and Scott Satterfield do not have the same agent. So no.
Is Satterfield a Jimmy Sexton guy?
No.
No.
I think it's a CAA guy, but not
CAA.
Trace. It's a different guy at CAA.
yeah,
That's Luke CAA.
I thought we was Trace.
Because I saw a picture of him listed. There was a picture of him who was wearing a CAA t-shirt.
Whatever. They might be the same agency with different agents.
Right, for sure.
It's wild that this all happens, and of course, it's Crosstown Shootout week as well. So I'm sure you guys will dive into that pretty heavy on the BCJ pod, and kind of roll a little bit more on that. But
I don't know what we're gonna get to Wednesday, because we should be joined. I know we will be joined by John Cunningham, and I believe we will also be joined by Brian Fox talking some Cincy Reigns.
Cincy Reigns, let it rain.
I haven't told Brian that yet, so if that is Brian running the Cincy Reigns account that's been in here, Brian, 8:00 Wednesday, you're on the podcast.
Lock it in. Free advertisement, much needed advertisement, if you will, for good old Cincy Reigns. But let's see here. Are we done glossing on this? We ready to do a little basketball into the mailbag real fast?
Oh yeah. By the way, Dan, please don't stream of conscious the feed while we're talking to John Cunningham. We might have to turn the chat off.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I thought that was a given.
I don't need to see any of the comments. Well,
some of you need help.
Or is there any way you can make John not able to see the comments? Or once you're in, are you comment worthy?
I mean, they're in the room. Like, I think I have to go to YouTube and Twitch and turn the comments off.
Yeah, 100%. Because I don't know what some of the people might say.
All right, boys. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Dave.
What? Did I miss anything else good that you guys talked about?
Thanks for your contribution.
Did you break any other news or anything?
Oh yeah. Well, so is those rumblings on Twitter today? Did that make the apparel deal open on the forefront? if you will?
Dave doesn't.
Are you asking me?
Like, open-ended to Dave or
Yeah, we're
Chad,
signing,
if you will.
signing with Puma
Okay, yeah.
Let's
There you
go.
and New Balance.
I like that. New Balance, okay. Hit up
I'll-
Kawhi Leonard.
Dave, go to bed.
Okay, bye.
Stay up. I'll address that a little bit. Do I think UC is in talks with Nike? Yeah, I do. Do I think a deal is done? No. Do I think a deal is guaranteed to be done? No. So essentially, you have a Twitter account that's not a reporter, that's not in the media. They get wind of the rumors that are going around.
Is that all it was? Because it seemed like I saw a lot more about it on my feed than normal.
Well,
But,
all
you
it
know,
takes is one place to say it.
Yeah.
It catches on, and then everybody else, I know the Barstool guys jumped on it. Like, look, like the rumor is one of the worst kept secrets, like, of the past 6 months. Like, everybody's heard the rumor.
Right.
Do I think it's possible that UC goes back to Nike? Yep. Do I think it's possible it doesn't happen still? Yep. So that's why you've not seen me report that UC is going to sign with Nike.
Right.
Thanks for the donation, Justin. We appreciate it. He also asks immediately after, are we worried he's not going to be able to hire assistants with Ohio ties? I assume it was talked about in the interview, right? Been hearing this takes a couple times.
He's got a lot of money. He better be able to hire assistants with Ohio ties. That assistant pool is real big. So go get it done.
Yeah.
Adam, that's how you get timed out around here.
So basketball real quick. Obviously, 2 wins last week. That Bryant game on Sunday was fun. Bryant, man, you feel for their basketball program, man. All the illness going on around there.
One guy's in the ICU.
Yeah, I was like, what is
happened?
going on? I don't know.
Apparently, it was some like
Stomach
viral deal that went through the locker room.
Huh.
But look, I feel terrible that they had a player that had to spend time in the hospital. They also had like 6 of their top 8 guys on the floor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that wasn't a 4-point game.
No. Well,
That like if we just had this guy, that game may have been different.
they only had one starter out, which was Earl Timberlake, and he's like the 3rd leading scorer. So when I heard 6 are out, I kind of was like, oh gosh, who are the 6 out? Immediately hopped on and hit my bookie as well. But yeah, aside from that, it seemed like it was just more of a really good showing on the Bearcats end. Chad, I don't know how much you and Aaron dove into this last night, but man, it seemed like it was a fun game to watch and be at. It seemed like it was a really showed out that you got young players blossoming, which is what you want to see. 2 players getting double doubles, first time since Nasir Brooks and Trey Scott did it back in I forget the exact year, 2018 or something like that. So yeah, it looks like the team is putting together what it takes to kind of push forward, and I keep on talking about slow momentum building performances, and I feel like this was one where they kind of took the top off and started to really put things together.
So here's the thing. With the injuries to John Newman and Rob Finnessy, this is going to accelerate the need for Dan Skillings and Josh Reed.
Right.
Which means the ride is probably going to be a little more volatile.
But
those 2 kids can play.
you can see Josh Reed's rebounds. It's not like he just lucked into getting 9, 10 boards.
Well,
9 boards.
Dan has 3 rebounds a game, where his elbow is in
It's
everybody
above everyone
else's
else's.
hands.
Right. But I'm saying Reed's not. He doesn't have the athletic
he knows
ability.
positioning.
Yeah.
It's all IQ with Josh Reed.
Right.
Josh Reed's game is IQ.
Right. And then it's refreshing to see the scoring spread out as much as it was in that game. I mean, Vic Locken obviously is becoming a big time player for the team, and slowly continue to develop. You saw Sage Tolentino get some time. Jarrett Hensley. Yeah.
Did Sage Tolentino burn his red shirt? The traditional red shirt, yes. He can no longer get a traditional red shirt. If he gets an injury red shirt is available, a medical hardship waiver or whatever. But with basketball, if you play 1 second, if you go to the scorer's table and they buzz you in, your red shirt is out.
A la Mamadou Diarra.
I kind of like this visor look. Like I might have to give it a try in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't block as much for recording purposes, does it, Aaron? I feel like my eyes, like it's up here and not as much down here.
I think that largely has to do with your light.
No, I think it's because it's not a full hat. I can put it up a little higher. Like if I've got this on, you can't see.
I'm sure this makes for excellent podcast audio.
I don't care.
A lot right here.
You're so cranky.
It's true.
Not right here and right here. Yeah, but yeah. So Sage showed some, I thought, pretty solid minutes. You know, obviously
he played 5 minutes. He was good in those 5 minutes.
Yeah. So
like we talked about last night, like the Kalu Ezekbe's not been good enough. So you have to start exploring options.
Yeah.
The option they explored last night was Sage. Can Sage Tolentino help us? Aaron or Ryan, can you give Aaron a hug? He's cranky.
Come here, buddy. Come on. Bring it in. Brian, give him a kiss on the cheek.
Can I get one?
We already had our great hug, Brent.
You got to admit that was a good embrace.
It was solid.
One hell of
a warm,
embrace.
A warm embrace.
Felt like I've been missing it my whole life.
That, you know, on a nice nip blackout, just.
For the record, Brian, the Bearcats were undefeated in games that we hugged.
Yeah. Need to start hugging more.
And didn't quite see you on the sideline for the Tulane game. But,
yeah.
I was waiting to see you walk down the ramp and just kind of cruise in again.
The old undercover sideline pole.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be having any more of those.
I was going to say, I wonder how often, yeah.
My friends are so sad. They're like, now we can't sneak on the field with you. It's like, sorry, no more of that, man. It's all over.
Who knows? Maybe. But yeah, obviously a lot of dominoes will fall for football. But as far as basketball goes, big game on Saturday. I think obviously Fifth Third Arena gives a big push to the team, and you know what, if shots are falling, who knows? We'll see. We'll see what can happen in that one. Any first little quick thoughts as far as Crosstown Shootout goes? I know a lot has happened obviously over the past week, and the whole basketball thing is kind of, you know, we're trying to rev it back up, but they've strung together some wins, covered in a big way on Sunday. Now that team from Norwood is up next on Saturday. Going to be a rocking house. Anything, Aaron? Thoughts? Excited?
No, I'm terrified.
Okay. So Ken Palm only has them as a 2-point underdog in this one. So that sounds a lot like a anything can happen type situation.
That surprises me a little bit.
It's a shootout. Anything can happen. And
yeah, but I mean, the way they've played this year has been better than how UC's played. Like, I don't think there's any, like, that's not even a debate. They played Gonzaga well. They beat West Virginia. Like, when you look at their resume, they've played better than UC. Yes. What shitty Norwood player? It's got to be solely Boom, right? Like, the new guy that, like, who the hell is this guy?
He started the season off really strong from deep. And, I mean, hell, I'm looking at it right now. He's 16 of 31 from long range. 51st in the country, making 51. And Colby Jones at 11 of 20. I mean, what they've got, geez, oh, Pete. That's Colby Jones, Jack Nungy, Adam Kunkel, and Sully Boom all are shooting 429 or higher with some volume. from deep. So
I thought you'd appreciate this comment, Ryan. It says, I don't know, maybe you should shave and suddenly walk on freshman Brian Royer could work his way on the field.
Took me 5 years to make a name for
this.
myself. I don't know if I got another 5 in me. I don't think my body would allow it.
Brian Royer.
Just imagine 26-year-old Brian Royer.
Stetson Bennett dropping the mic.
Could be a Heisman finalist your senior season. How about that? But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, a long week. Both teams are off all week. Only game on the schedule for them is Saturday, so there will be plenty of coverage leading up to that, as well as the continued build of Scott Satterfield and his time as coach. Darren Van Pearson. Darren, by the way, I think I know you from back in the day. Cincinnati, Darren, just hop in the chat and say yes or no. The Young family. I think we know each other, Darren. Way back in the day. Derek Young, my brother. Just a simple yes or no. But go ahead with the question, Aaron.
He says, excited to see Sage play. We need consistent rim protection, and even at minimum, if he uses all 5 fouls to spell Vic for 10 minutes and keep him fresh, that's a plus. Thanks for the donation, Darren. I agree.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just the Houston approach, if you will. You know how many Sage is a big body out there. So just using him. I mean, he'll go for rebounds. He'll be there defensively, battle, protecting the rim and whatnot. So yeah, I completely agree, especially because Vic's been playing at a high level. So keeping him rested should be of an utmost priority.
We forgot the timestamp if we were moving to basketball.
Timestamp, y'all.
Timestamp, y'all. This timestamp brought to you by Quick Paper Supply, your locally and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. Quick Paper services over 150 restaurants with weekly, low minimum next-day deliveries, providing a wide range of food service products from to-go containers, cups, custom printed products, eco-friendly, and much more. They also have cleaning, restroom supplies for all cleaning and restroom supplies for all your janitorial needs. Call Nick, 513-470-2029, reference Bearcats, 20% off your first month of purchases. There you go.
There we go. Love it, Darren. If I could put that comment up here, I would. But yeah, cool having you follow us. As far as the Reed Colbert go, Kevin Huber for special teams coach. I mean,
here's the thing that's difficult about that. Okay, Kevin Huber has made a lot of money. Coaching college football takes a lot of time.
A lot.
You know what you don't get to do if you coach college football? Much. Enjoy all of that money that you made by playing in more games than anyone in the history of the Cincinnati Bengals. Right?
Ask Mike Miller in
right.
college basketball.
Right. I'm just not a visor guy. It's not.
And Rasheed Wallace too, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
You think it'll be fun because you get to be back in the groove and still part of a team and whatnot, but it is an awful lot of work.
But what happens? Then you're like, I want to go on vacation. And you can't. Like, it's a recruiting period.
We need you here for team camp.
It's a team camp, or you got to be. You got a 4-day window, so you can only go on vacation for 4 days. Ryan, if you had, what do you guys estimate? Kevin Huber's got to have what, $10 million in the bank, minimum.
At least.
Play for what, 20 years? How long did he play for?
He was on the 08 team, 08-09 team. So
I'm looking
14, 15 years. 14, 15 years in the NFL.
Making what was his contract?
I don't know what his last contract was. I mean, obviously you're a punter. You start out the early part of your career not making a ton. Then you take out taxes. Kevin Huber's got, let's take the easy way out. Multiple $1 million in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Or in it tied up in investments and his portfolio.
Absolutely.
His net worth is multiple millions of dollars.
I mean,
If you want to go on vacation for a week, career earnings $28.3 million.
According to the richest.com, he only has an estimated net worth of $2.3 million.
Okay. Well, his career earnings are.
That means he's been spending that money.
I know he moves a lot.
Boy.
I don't know.
He moves a lot.
I saw him sitting up in the upper bowl at a UC basketball game. So
He was there Saturday.
in the
He was
upper
there
bowl.
Saturday or Sunday. No, he was down kind of lower level. He's a normal. My uncle plays golf with his dad. Like my uncle's known his family forever and ever and ever. So yeah, the normal dude. But are you really like, you're it's the middle of June and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna go on a nice vacation. Let's go on a cruise. No, I've got to work these high school prospect camps where I stand out on the turf at Nippert Stadium with a stopwatch. Royer knows exactly what I'm talking about. And time 40s.
I got to go back to McNick High School and recruit their punter.
I'm not even talking about that. Like just the stuff that goes on in June and July.
Yeah,
like,
no, it never ends.
No.
And it's worse for the coaches.
Yeah, that's my point.
Never ends for us. We can barely do anything.
Keep it rolling. I got to go potty.
It's even worse for the coaches. So
it's June and July, man. Like I've got $6 million in the bank. Whatever. I've got $2 million in the bank. And I want to go spend a week, on an island somewhere. For me, I'm a big Jamaica guy. I love Jamaica. Been there a couple times. Enjoy it very much. I want to go to Jamaica for 10 days, 2 weeks. Nope. Can't do that if you're coaching.
Nope.
It's not as fun as like everybody's quick. Everybody's quick to take the most famous guys that have played at UC, Ryan, and
bring them back.
Throw them into coaching. People
don't want to do that.
And I know they were mostly joking, but people this week are like, just get Jason to retire and have Jason be the head coach. Kelsey. Like, man, that man, you want to talk about a man that's made a lot of money.
Oh, he's made a ton. And he probably just wants to drink beer for a little bit too. He doesn't want to coach.
He's got a couple daughters. He just want now he doesn't have to do anything. He's gonna make millions of dollars a year doing this podcast.
Yeah. Why would he coach?
He have to do
this podcast.
Anymore.
Yeah.
Let's see. Coach all the time, 80 hours a week, or sit down with my brother and talk for 90 minutes.
God, I would love that.
Twice the money.
Yeah.
All right. Brent's back. Ready to move into the mailbag as we're already at 2 hours?
We got to mailbag it.
I felt like Tom Hanks on A League of Their Own right there, man. Sorry about that. We're back.
All right.
Oh, boy.
Well, do we want to timestamp again, or is it too close to the last read?
Timestamp for sure.
Timestamp, Quick Paper Supply. Oh, clicked the wrong button. They provide disposable restaurant supplies, products like to-go containers, cups, pizza boxes, to-go bags, can liners, napkins. They've been open since 2009 and are one of the largest minority-owned companies in the city. Call Nick, 513-470-2029. Reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases. There you go. Our good friends at Quick Paper Supply. That's a double up, basically. We doubled up on Quick Paper Supply.
Bang, bang.
There you go. All right. Switch things back over.
Hold on real quick. Natalie, those guys will be around the program when their playing days are done. The Kelseys, maybe. They're from Cleveland. I'm sure they'll be around, but they're not.
Financially, Travis is all the way in on the program, so.
Yeah, those guys will definitely. They have a massive amount of love for UC. But are they going to want to work 80 hours a week when they've got, and those two have millions and millions in the bank? Not Kevin Huber millions and Hall of Fame millions in the bank. So you can be around in a different way. But guess what? You played 10, 12, 15 years in the NFL. there's not a lot of guys that do that. NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, that want to do. Yeah, they'll be hanging around for sure. We're just talking about the coaching aspect. There's just not many guys that are like, man, I've got all this money in the bank. I don't want to work 60 hours a week. I don't want to work 20 hours a week if I got that much money in the bank, right? That's what we're all doing. We're trying to get that much money in the bank so we don't have to work anymore.
Wow.
This
But then
pod is on the way.
yeah, the Matt Rules of the world, though. You still got
Moving on to the mailbag. Here we go.
There we go.
Starting off in the football portion of the mailbag, who are the coaches you would like to have stay on staff? My thoughts are Combs and Walter Stewart for sure, with maybe Cummings. This should help solidify some offensive and defensive line commitments. The game is won in the trenches. Having Combs helps with continuity amongst current players in addition to local recruiting ties.
I 100% agree with that.
I agree with Combs and Walt for sure. The offensive stuff is hard, man, because they're going to have a different system. They're going to have a different philosophy. He's going to have, and by he, I mean Scott Satterfield's going to have his own offensive line connections, like network, whatever. I think it's
Cummings
really
is also
difficult.
Gino's guy.
Cummings is Gino's guy. I also think it's really difficult to for an offensive coach to work with a line coach that doesn't come from whatever. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe their philosophies are similar. I don't know that answer. But if you're hiring an offensive line coach as an offensive coordinator or an offensive-minded head coach, and his philosophy is different than yours, that seems really counterproductive to me. Am I on target there, Ryan?
Nope. I mean, yes,
Nope.
you are on target.
Okay.
I meant.
Shit, that was very casual. Nope. I was like,
I know.
what did
I meant
miss?
to, I said it wrong. That's stupid of me.
All right. Over under 14 and a half high school kids in the 2023 class. Brent, you're the betting guy.
I'll take over. I think it's dwindled down to 13 right now, 13 or 12.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I imagine they'll get a few to either decide to come back or add a couple that Satterfield's been in conversations with, or a couple of late bloomers that he's been keeping his eye on as well. So I'll take the over.
Ryan, what you got?
I'd say over as well.
Chad?
I'll go under. I'm gonna go heavy portal.
It's down to 12 right now. So
It's at 12,
and that's
There's still a
McCullough
possibility.
still
You
in
never
there.
know. Yeah. I'm gonna go under. I'll say 12, 13, 14, and then a lot of portal action.
I say under as well. Honest question, in your opinion, were the resumes of Houston's Dana Holgerson and UCF's Gus Malzahn better or worse or about the same when they were first hired by their respective schools? I'm trying to get a feel for if UC really went out on a limb with the Scott Satterfield hire or if they're in line with what the other new-look Big 12 schools from the AAC have done.
I think Gus Malzahn was a good hire. I think they forced him out of Auburn inappropriately.
I think they're talking about when he got the Auburn job or when he got his first big job. I mean, West Virginia was Dana's first big job.
Well,
he was a coordinator, right?
I think they're saying when they were hired to Houston and to UCF.
Well, I mean, Dana was at West Virginia for
I think
8 years.
Gus Malzahn's a better hire than Satterfield, in my opinion. Here.
I think Dana's very similar to Satterfield as well.
Minus the...
But he's just a jackass.
And, yeah.
Dana's a jackass. But if you go strictly on resumes, then yeah.
I mean, Malzahn's resume is fascinating, Ryan, because Malzahn is a guy that will beat Nick Saban and lose to the worst coach in the conference.
Yeah, but
that's
he does
what
have
he
a
did at
national
Auburn.
championship. Yeah.
Okay. No, he doesn't, actually.
He
Does.
doesn't?
Yeah, he does. He does. Tommy's the one that didn't win a national championship when they went undefeated. That's right. Wrong Auburn coach. My bad.
Yeah.
Pine
Yeah,
Box
I was
Tommy.
like, God damn, I forgot I messed that one up.
No, Gus did with Cam Newton. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking wrong Auburn undefeated season. That's on me. My bad.
You're good.
But Gus does have, and we saw it this year. He has always been a big game coach that loses historically 1, 2, 3 games where you're like, what the hell happened there? That's all. That was my point in that.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Navy.
Right.
Yep.
He did it this year.
In your opinion, what are the 3 most important priorities that this new coach and staff need to focus on?
Recruiting, and recruiting. You're going into the Big 12. You better have the talent. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I think recruiting, defense.
Let me clarify real quick, Ryan. Recruiting your own roster because that's a massive part now. Recruiting the high school ranks, especially around Cincinnati and in this region, and then supplementing it with your strengths in other areas, like has been done here with great success, and then recruiting the transfer portal. So recruiting being 3 things, it's not just me saying recruiting. It's saying all 3 levels of recruiting now that you have to deal with as a coach.
Yeah, fair.
And I do want to clarify this, because I'm sure someone will either do it in the comments on the board or on Twitter or something. But Gene Chizik won the national championship at Auburn. Gus Malzahn lost to Jameis Winston in Florida State.
All right, there you go, Brent. Thank you. That's why you're our facts guy.
Quick clarification.
Well done.
But yeah,
as far as
the 3 go,
it's
I know recruiting, development, and culture. And when I say recruiting, I mean obviously NIL and the portal as well. But winning, culture. Come on.
The development part is interesting, Brent, because I did have somebody I talked to on the Louisville side today that said like the development part is a concern because if you look at Louisville's best guys, they were guys that were there when Satterfield got there.
Yeah.
Like the guys that performed. They were guys that were there when Satterfield got there, or guys that he went and got out of the transfer portal, which guess what? Guys you went and got out of the transfer portal are still your guys.
Yeah.
I do think the concern is like this has been historically a developmental program. Right. On Pike to Ben's day, Pike and Ben's were not high-level recruits, right?
The day after Alec Pierce had a great game for the Colts.
Yeah.
Right. This is a developmental program, so
there's nothing wrong with that, too.
No, that's how some teams become great teams, and then guess what? You keep winning, and you keep getting better players, and then you get to develop players that don't start here, that maybe start here, and then start here, like as you move up the ladder. Development is critical, and
culture is critical to development.
From the Louisville source I talked to, there is some concern about the development of the freshman recruits that he's brought into the program over the past couple of years.
Exactly. That's what I was talking about earlier. It's like the hype recruit, NIL. We got this big pool of money. We'll get these bigger guys in, but then like they're still losing just as much as they win. So if they're getting these good recruits, why aren't they winning? It's because like I think they might be having a developmental / cultural problem or shortfall that, I didn't think we were having here. So I think it's got to be a mix of both. If he can tap into both, if he can use the culture Fickle's built here and maintain and improve and not try to change it, along with bring his NIL and recruiting, I mean, you're going to have a surge. You're going to have some good shit going on here. So
it's going to change. The culture is going to change. You've got a new guy in charge.
Yeah.
But it has to stay solid. Like it has to stay way above average. It's not going to be like you can't keep it the same because you're not Luke Fickell, right? But you have to maintain a really strong locker room where all the guys, as you have talked about a million times, fight for one another every day.
Yeah. Similar values, like vision, similar.
Right.
Not going to be the same exact things.
All right, for Chad, was this the most difficult coaching search you've ever had to cover from a reporting perspective? If no, which coaching search was?
Yeah, this was really hard. It's hard.
All right.
It's hard. It's like hiring a coach from Lubbock. It's hard.
For the group, I don't like grading hires, but in terms of what the candidate pool where you see is at as a program going to the Big 12, etc., how did Cunningham do? I feel like it's a hire where we know what Sat's floor is while still having a reasonably high ceiling.
I'd agree with that. I think that's fair. My question would be like what did everybody want? Because a lot of people didn't want a sitting MAC head coach. A lot of people didn't want a coach with no head coaching experience going into year one in the Big 12.
The coaching pool was horrendous.
It wasn't a great cycle. And we talked about this last year. Like we've discussed this. We talked about it last year when we said Oklahoma, Texas, USC, Notre Dame, LSU, like all these great jobs open. And then there was a waterfall of jobs that opened, around them. Because you had basically 2 years where nobody changed coaches. You had the COVID year, nobody changed coaches really. And then you had the year after where everybody was still financially like recovering from the COVID year. So there was just this frenzy last year, and that eliminated a lot of options, I think. So that impacts, the hiring pool that you're going to have when you follow something like 5 elite blue blood jobs changing and the trickle down from all of that. I'm going to ask you guys something because I saw this today and I want to confirm whether it's just because I lost my brain this week. Did you guys know Tulsa fired Ryan Montgomery or Phil whatever the Tulsa coach was?
Yeah,
I didn't know until I saw that
that they
Kevin
hired
Wilson.
somebody. Yeah,
Kevin Wilson.
Yeah.
I had no idea, Ryan.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I had no idea that they fired their coach. That they fired Phil Montgomery.
Well, I don't think it was a fire. I think it was one of those where it's like, we'll tell you to resign type thing.
So he got fired.
Yeah, pretty much.
He got nice fired.
Yeah.
He got fired with some respect. They put some respect on his firing. But I'm telling you, for whatever reason, and it's probably just I was on the phone for 7 days, I had no idea that Tulsa was in the market for a head coach. That's how relevant Tulsa is. Nobody, I'm sure it was news in like the 10 minutes that it happened on Twitter that Tulsa was letting him go or he was retiring or stepping away or whatever it was. I didn't see it. Nobody else talked about it afterwards. And then today they hired Kevin Wilson and I went.
It was on the front page of the Tulsa Gazette. You didn't see it?
Those people all have me blocked because of the whole ducking smoke.
Yeah.
Everybody with a pen in Tulsa has Chad Brendel blocked. I'll just let you know that.
Brent, did you want to add anything to that last question about?
Grading hires. You know what? When I first initially saw it, it was the overall shock. But the more diving into it, I keep on just going back to looking more at the Appalachian State tenure than the Louisville thing. I mean, yes, his development is down, but it's like 2020. That was a very hard year for anyone. So that was when his first freshman class. That's when you start to develop your young players. So I'm not going to give a whole grade on it, but we'll see.
I'm just going to read this tweet, Aaron. A Louisville fan said, wanted to see Cincy fan reactions to the hire, and 2 grown men got into a fight, leading to one guy logging off the Zoom for their pod within the first 5 minutes. So all is going well in Cincy.
That's fine. We're not here for the Louisville fans anyway.
Aaron's had a bad day, Louisville fan. It's okay.
What coaches not currently at UC or Louisville could realistically be brought in to help with Cincinnati area-based recruiting?
Tom Bolden.
I thought about that one.
Let me get on the phone with Kyle Keebler Bolden, and
He's
I'll
already
let
got
you know.
the Halloween costume.
Ryan, it's a match made in heaven, isn't it?
Yeah, the Visor Nation.
Tom, Visor Sat, like
Tap in.
Gray Guy Fieri joining forces with okay, I'm in.
Saddy
I want
Daddy.
Bolden on staff now. I'm in.
And then he drags Bolden, his son, back into coaching, further sending him down the dark hole.
I'm here for all of it.
I think Mike Daniels has to be considered. He's got, he knows everybody in the city.
That's the Princeton. He used to coach at Princeton. Yeah, he
was
just
the
come
running
around
back
the team.
coach at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
So I think Mike Daniels, you give a look potentially. I don't know. I mean, there's not we all know the names of guys that have been around. But ultimately the answer is still Carey.
Yeah,
you do everything you have to do to keep Carey on staff, and that way you're dialed in. You're as dialed in, tapped in as anybody could possibly be in the city of Cincinnati.
Do you think that Fickle's going to try to bring him to?
I don't know, possibly.
Yeah.
He's a great recruiter. He's recruited nationally at Ohio State. Ohio State didn't hire him to specifically recruit Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
He recruited some elite defensive back talent to Ohio State. I think you throw your name in the ring and see if he's interested in moving again, or it could be a situation where he wants to stay here and be around his family and his grandkids. And that's the $1 million question there, is how he wants to handle that.
Yeah.
All right. Is Satterfield buying the barn?
Satterfield's kids are all adults. One at UC, one at Grand Canyon, and one, did he say in Wyoming, I think?
Bozeman,
Montana. So he has no use for the barn. None. The barn is for somebody that has. Where were you?
Kyle Bolden set the barn on fire.
Collect insurance money on the way out. Satterfield mentioned in the press conference that he grew Louisville's recruiting department to 7 people. How many people were in Fickle's recruiting department the last few years?
Pat and Max.
I'm only aware of Pat
interns.
and Max and Bowden before that.
Yeah. Well, Pat was the number 2 to Bowden, and Max was an intern at that point in time. Really, it was just Pat and Max and a couple interns, or student hires or whatever. But the only 2 full-time recruiting guys were Pat and Max. So that could be a place where those jobs those jobs are really important, but they don't pay high 6 figures, mid 6 figures. So you could get, with that extra $2 million, 3, 4, 5 people in your recruiting department. Well, there was 3 actually. Austin was a part of, there was 3 for a while. So you could get that to 3, 4, 5 pretty quickly with the salary pool that Satterfield has. And if he said he had 7 at Louisville, I'm sure he'd like to get 5, 6, 7 again.
All right. Who do you think, current or former player, comes back as the head coach of UC football?
I mean, Gino's probably the most likely right now. He's a coordinator. I mean, Mickens is possible. D'Angelo Smith is in the game. You have to think it's probably one of the younger guys, right? Because the Walt actually maybe right up there with Gino is the most likely. The older guys that have been in the game kind of are past that head coaching range, I would think. So one of the guys that have recently been here, current player, I don't know, Royer. Who you got as a potential head coach on the current roster?
Don't count me out, man. Do not count me out. I've been doing some thinking lately. Might have to ditch the F-35.
I think you could be a national champion strength and conditioning coach.
That's what Danny Felino always tells me, but I don't know. A lot of things are going to have to. I know. A lot of things are going to have to go wrong in my life for that to happen.
Are you a visor guy? What are your thoughts?
No, I'm not a hat. I don't do any hats, man.
Okay.
Let it flow.
Since I know everyone loves to look at wins, losses to evaluate coaches, stupid. But besides the checklist JC had, what would you say Satterfield's best qualities as head coach, program runner? And I guess I could ask the opposite as well. Least redeeming qualities. Do you believe that he will have this program's back when stuff gets tough, unlike at UL? It's Geoff, by the way, LOL.
I don't know yet. I mean,
I don't think it's stupid to evaluate wins and losses. It's like the
but it's there. I think the problem there is, Ryan, is people have been harping on wins and losses without context.
Okay.
Like everybody hated Sean Lewis because it took him a little bit to get Kent State stabilized when he got there. Everybody wants to talk about Satterfield without talking about the level of shit he had to clean up from the Bobby Petrino era.
Yeah, fair.
And I know people look at UC and say there was a lot of shit to clean up when Tuberville left, and there was. But I think you can attest to the fact that there weren't a bunch of bad guys in the locker room when you got here.
No, not bad people, just not very good football players.
Well, I don't think Cortez and Cope weren't very good.
Oh,
Wade
no,
wasn't very good.
No, they were. There were some. Those are the ones you saw playing.
Right.
But then there was a lot of guys that weren't. Yeah. I just think there was it
was a country club atmosphere.
Yeah, no one was a bad person.
It.
Yeah, they just weren't identifying well with the staff's culture and vision, and I don't think they wanted to change. The guys that wanted to change, they succeeded and they played. Yeah. And they either went on to the NFL and whatnot. So,
but my point being, you didn't when you walked in there, when Luke walked in there were problems, but the problems weren't related to having a terrible locker room.
No. It was more just football knowledge, football awareness.
They weren't properly coached.
Yeah, they weren't properly coached. They weren't developed. They didn't know. The scheme wasn't our defense. They didn't have great scheme. They didn't have great scheme on offense. They didn't value the trenches. So yeah, it wasn't a player personality / attitude / just overall type of person
and
problem.
That's what he had to deal with, I think, at Louisville. Is there was a lot of bullshit that went on as Petrino kind of ran that thing into the ground in his second stay.
Yeah.
Nobody respected the guy. We saw him. Everybody saw him on the internet with that stupid brace on his neck and lying about getting into a motorcycle wreck with his side piece on the back. You don't come back from that.
Yeah. Brent, anything to add there?
No, we're good.
All right. Is Drogish linked at the hip to Gino? I kind of got that read and was wondering if Gino leaves, does Drogosh go as well?
I guess we'll see. Did someone say that he was planning on visiting this weekend in the chat? I don't know if I saw anything about that. Chad, do you know anything about as far as he goes?
He's currently away from his computer.
Gino was the one that obviously recruited him to come there and whatnot, but I mean, he seems to be one of the guys that have, stayed.
Mick has spoken to Brady tonight. There is a thread with comments from as many of the commits as Mick has been able to get a hold of about their plans. they're trying to have a big official visit weekend this weekend, so that they can get those guys, as many of those guys as possible, back on campus. Brady plans to be there, so we'll see.
Yep.
Very good. Any leads on new hires? Looks like the Louisville strength and conditioning coach is off to Arkansas.
All of those things in terms of new hires will be covered on Bearcat Journal. That is not stuff we will discuss on the free content.
It was just a question on the.
I know. I'm just answering the question. Yeah. Like that stuff is like that's why people subscribe to Bearcat Journal. What's happening with the building of the coaching staff? We will be following all that stuff there. When hires are made, we will discuss them here. So that's kind of the yin and yang of free content and premium content. If we give all the premium content away on the live shows,
people get mad.
There's no reason for anybody to pay for the premium stuff. So it's a fine line. We got to walk it.
Never saw Turd Killer in the questions before, but here we are. What happened during the search that brought Satterfield into the mix? Was JC unimpressed with the final interviews and reached out? Did a booster push it?
We covered that a little bit in the beginning of the show. I think Satterfield was a guy that had been in contact very early in the process and then came back into play later. I think there's always a situation where when you're hiring, you go through your hiring list and maybe you get to the point where it's about time to make a decision and you're like, maybe I want to hear something else. And a lot of that is like when you go back to the last Sunday presser from John Cunningham, and he talked about NIL and recruiting and transfer portal and some of these things that were going to be important to him. I wonder if they just didn't get maybe the answers they were looking for from some of the guys that were, and this is me spitballing. This is not something I know. This is just me talking through how things followed the like landing at the final decision. I do wonder, like the booster stuff. And I said this morning, I know there were people, and this shouldn't be surprising because there were a lot of people when Luke Fickell that was hired were not Luke Fickell fans, right? He was a defensive guy. They wanted offense. He didn't have that success at Ohio State in that season that he was forced into a disastrous situation. There were a lot of people that followed that coaching search that weren't sold on Luke Fickell. And some of the people that were behind the scenes really liked the idea of Scott Satterfield. He was winning huge at Appalachian State and transitioning them from FCS to FBS. This wasn't like a G5 program that had been stable. This was a FCS team that was coming up to FBS and continued that success like quickly. So there were people behind the scenes that really liked Scott Satterfield. Did those people have influence in this now? I don't know. Do I think there's a possibility that the people that really liked him then were like, hey, you know what? 6 years ago, I really liked that guy that finished second. Maybe we should revisit and see if we can work something out. And then they worked something out. And when I got that text at almost 11:30, 12 o'clock last night, it was like, do I call Aaron and wake him up? Thank God I didn't. You needed your beauty sleep.
I would have been extra cranky.
There's no such thing as extra. You wake up on extra cranky sometimes.
Today was one of those days. All right. Any news on a deal with Nike Jordan? I've heard that a deal is done, but no official announcement. Barstool Cincy seems to think it's done. We did discuss this earlier in the show.
It's not done. It's not done. Might it get done? Absolutely. Is it done? No, it's not done.
My thoughts are if people want to commit discretionary NIL dollars to the cause, current players like Corleone, Watley, etc. are a good place to start given their outspoken support of the school/program. Also like the idea of some recruits reaffirming their commitment to the school, although I guess that waits until they are re-recruited by the new coach. Not really a question there, but I thought it was worth reading.
Okay.
If you had to guess, where did Sat rank on JC's coaching search list? Similar to Wisconsin search, they had their guy in Leonard, but a couple of options that would trump him if they got a chance to hire that person. If any, who were those candidates to JC?
Those questions are so hard to answer because everything was kept so quiet. Like, if I had to guess, I just spent 9 days guessing. Right? Like, I spent 9 days guessing. I got the name of the coach 8 hours before he was announced as I was going to bed. So I don't know where I know what I think the list looked like. I don't know what the actual list looked like, so I can't speculate on, like, if I saw John, maybe Chip Kelly was high on John's list. Maybe Jeff Brom, as some people have mentioned, was high on the list. Like, I don't know. 50% off still going. Yep, 50% off. You can get it, bearcatjournal.com. 1 year off your membership. And if you're a monthly member, you can upgrade to annual and get the 50% off deal.
There you go. All right. If Sat is a dud, does JC get the axe?
That's up to Neville Pinto, so probably not.
I don't think he would deserve that too. One bad move.
Chad, how do you feel like your record against Cunningham is? 1-1, 2-0, or 0-2?
Probably 1-1. Like, I feel like the basketball search, I was in the game, and then I got a shot late to get the hire. He won this one. At best, 1-1, maybe 0-2. 2-0 is not even close. I got my ass kicked this time. It's like there was a Xavier fan that jumped in my mentions today and was like, Scott Satterfield is on Chad's Hot Board 5.0 that he hasn't published yet. And I just tweeted him, nailed it.
Who finished second in the coaching search?
Don't know. I was told by somebody last night, late yesterday afternoon, that Willie Fritz was going to be the coach. And that came from people close to Tulane. That didn't come from Cincinnati.
Willie Fritz.
There are people in New Orleans that are convinced, people very connected to the Tulane program, that Willie Fritz was going to be the coach.
After he beats us, we were going to hire him.
Yep.
That would have been crazy.
And then the longer the evening went on, I was told it's not him, it's somebody else. Something else is happening. That would have been while Satterfield was here interviewing with Cunningham and Pinto. So Willie Fritz or Mo Linguist or Sean Lewis or Alex Golish. I don't know.
Has the ship sailed on Gino being back? With the large increase in assistant salary pool, could a raise be enough to keep him?
Probably not. It's stylistic, right? We talked about this. Like, if you're the head coach and you're an offense coach, you're going to want a guy that runs your pretty close or your style of offense. Same with your offensive line. Like, if you're a defense coach, you're going to want guys around you that are familiar. If you're a 3-3-5 guy or you're a 4-3 guy or you're a 4-2, whatever, you want people that are familiar with who you are and what you do and what you want your identity to be. I don't see one. I would imagine I don't have any indication. How would Gino and Scott Satterfield have known each other, right? So you're going to hire an offensive coordinator that you don't know, or what you're going to offer him to be like? He's bringing his quarterback coach. We already know that. Pretty sure he's bringing his quarterback coach. So what job is there for Gino that isn't like a step back in his career when he has plenty of options also.
Any chance Louisville's running back coach will come to UC? Seems that could go a long way in getting their top recruit to potentially come to UC.
Probably not. Like
I'm
that
gonna
guy didn't go to Louisville because of the running back coach. Let's be honest.
I'm gonna guess there's some Adidas contractual obligations that are keeping him at Louisville at least for 1 year.
No, he's not part. He is, but he's not part of the kids from St. John's Bosco in California. That's a different NIL situation.
Sure.
When you start dealing in this stuff, Aaron, you got to know every story because all of them have their own.
Well, it's not like the Cardinals are one to not do something shady or in between the lines.
It's not shady or in between the lines. It's legal now.
Patino.
It wasn't legal then, and they got one of these.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone does things still above board.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, but the point is, you can pay players. You can.
I get it. That's not to say that there's still not some shady dealings going on. Moving on. What are realistic expectations for UC over the next few years? West Virginia and TCU were 11-14 in their first 2 seasons in the Big 12. Utah went 18-19 in their first 3 Pac-12 seasons. Is this the type of record we should expect in the near future?
This transition is going to be like a trip to Lubbock. That's it. Look, let me throw out a hypothetical home slate for you, Royer. Hypothetically, UC plays, I don't know, Oklahoma. With it. That one we've heard a bunch of rumors about, that there's a good chance Oklahoma's coming to Nippert and UC is going to go to Austin to play Texas. I have sourced that through somebody. Next year, 2023. So you have Miami at home. You have Eastern Kentucky at home. You have Pitt on the road. Let's say the Big 12's generous and UC gets 5 home games. And 3 of those 5 home games are Oklahoma, Baylor, and I don't know what, UCF or Iowa State. Iowa State, what, they played in like 8 one-score games this year? Let's say those are 4 of the 5, 3 of the 5, whatever. Take your pick. You feel great about like an 8-win season?
Nope. I don't. Sadly.
So it's going to be tough. You're going to be looking at 500, trying to get bowl eligible, trying to get to 7 wins, right?
Yeah.
At best. So realistic expectations are very similar to, I think, what West Virginia and TCU.
I would love to see them. I would love to see them at 8-4 by the 3rd year. If they can do that, I think it's fair. I will be comfortable with Saddy Daddy. So, but I just can't.
I will call him Daddy Daddy.
What about Daddy Statty?
No, that one is a no.
Daddy Saddy.
I'd rip that to him the first time I met him to let him know how we operate around here.
We need to get you in front of Satterfield. We need to let him know this is Mr. Bearcat.
He won't give 2 shits. I expect him to not, too.
No, he will. He will. We got to do is get you a Dana Beers this weekend.
Yeah, what I thought he was coming on this week.
Dude, we're at 2 hours and 43 minutes without Dana Beers.
I know. I thought he was, but then you told us last week he was coming or some shit.
The coach got hired today, Ryan.
I know. Shit's flying around. When's he getting here?
Michael Beers' uncle is not on this week. I think he's like for Thursday or Friday.
Any word on how Satterfield's meeting with the players went, Shep notwithstanding?
It went like an official visit. It went well. Like, of course, there's going to be some guys that already have their minds made up. There's nothing you can say that's going to change their mind. And then there are going to be guys that are open-minded, and then you're going to have guys that are be like, I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving. Like, so you got to figure out who's who. We talked about that a little bit earlier. The meeting was fine. Like, there's nothing that's going to come out of that meeting that's going to change anything, right, Ryan?
No.
Unless the guy stands there and tells you he's coming 36 times in 7 minutes.
And he's bringing his baggage, and it's Louis.
Yeah.
I'm bringing my baggage. And it's
coming.
and I'm coming.
I'm coming.
Would you support moving the Crosstown? We're in the basketball portion of the mailbag here. Would you support moving the Crosstown Shootout back to January like it used to be so it doesn't get lost during football season? This game used to be second biggest event in the city. Behind Reds opening day. I'm not sure if it's even in the top 5 anymore in terms of local sporting events with the Big 12 football and basketball on the horizon.
I would support it, but it's not going to happen because TV wants it where TV wants it. And yeah, it's still the second biggest event in the city. Outside of, maybe this what looks to be for however long it lasts, the annual Bengals Chiefs game.
Bigger than Oktoberfest, which is the second biggest Oktoberfest in all of the world.
Yeah, event.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had myself a good
the
time.
Shootout is bigger. The Shootout is bigger than Oktoberfest in terms of like. Here's the thing, Aaron. You know what?
The chicken dance set a world record.
Aaron, you know what people don't talk about in July? The fucking chicken dance. Xavier fans still tell Cincinnati fans, we kicked your ass this year in the Shootout all year.
That's because they don't have
364 days.
That's because they don't have football to talk about.
If you live in the city, it's a 365 day. You're out of touch because you're in Athens now. You don't. Nobody talks about anything.
Muskies don't jump in my mentions either.
You don't even see people most of the time.
That's true.
Most of your days are spent only looking at the faces of the people in your house.
What a loser.
Now you guys are just being rude.
I'm not being rude. Am I wrong?
Years past, we've seen Norwood players play out of mind. D. Davis 6 of 6 from 3. Who do the Cats need to watch out for on Sunday or on Saturday?
Actually, I'm going to change my answer. I said Solely Boom earlier. The one I think you have to fear, like doing something that he has, is Cam Kraft. Xavier's got a freshman. He's a shooter. He's like a 6'6" shooter that can. I've seen him get really hot in like on the AAU trail. He hasn't had a great start to his career, but that could easily be like the breakout game for Cam Kraft, where he hits 3 or 4 threes to change.
Who was the center who went off last year?
Nunji.
Is he still there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Brent, you got anybody to watch out for?
I mean, I'd say obviously don't let Nunji get off again. I think Kunkel would really frustrate a lot of us if he knocked down a few threes. What about Kiki Tandy? That's another one where is it?
Yeah, kind of lost on the back of the roster.
Yeah,
that's not a bad thought.
One that the Cincy fans obviously know the name of and see him come in off the bench and splashing a few.
Wasn't he an eighth? Which one? Nunji? Kiki Tandy? Jeez.
Yeah.
Yes, they were both 8th-year seniors last year.
That's the basketball portion of the mailbag. 2 more questions to wrap it up. If you could bring back any restaurant within walking distance of UC, what would it be?
Royer? I go the Holy Grail. Duh. The Holy Grail used to be right there. Now it's Hangover Easy. That used to be the Holy Grail.
No way. Oh, yeah. I saw the back doors for that. Yeah.
Yep. That was the Holy Grail.
That's true.
It's probably
the Holy Grail.
I'm trying to think of what got shut down in my time there.
Taco Bell.
D-Pub? Daniel's Pub. Daniel's Pub is the bar right on the corner, right on Daniels Street. They shut it down. They had popcorn, hot dogs, as much beer as you could ever drink. And they were open
Murphy's.
They're open till They're open
Murphy's
till
is still
2:30
open.
or 3. Yeah, Murphy's is open.
Oh no, I was just saying
Mad Frog. They're saying
the hot
Mad
dogs
Frog.
and
Was Mad Frog?
Mad Frog didn't
restaurant,
have food, right?
Right. I don't think
I
it
don't
did.
know. We didn't venture over to Mad Frog. There were some interesting things going on over there.
People are saying Papadino's, Christie's. All right. And the last question, of course, it's Skins. I'd like to announce I'm staying, much to Aaron's chagrin. Chad, can you ask JC if he can run my next job search since nothing leaks out from his office? This question is for...
JC hasn't taken my calls in a week, so we'll see. I'll try.
This question is for everyone. What's more frustrating, JC keeping info locked up airtight or the board panicking because they assume worst case when there is no information available?
Yes.
I think that's the answer. Last of all, Chad, how many different people did you think were going to get the job at one point or another?
The only thing I got that I thought was like really solid, like this is going to happen, was Willie Fritz. The person I got that from, I trust. Like, so somebody sent me a message, like somebody I know of, sent me a message and said, I know somebody like up the food chain at Tulane, and they're hearing that Willie Fritz is going to Cincinnati. And I didn't think a ton of it because I'm getting 70 rumors a day. Everybody's telling me the internet thing now where like I talked to Steve, and Steve told me what he thinks is happening. And then I'm going to hit up Chad and tell him I talked to my source. And my source says, no, that's just your brother-in-law. Steve is not a source. Steve is your brother-in-law, right?
You mean Coreyville Carl or...
you know what I want to say, and I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, what did he say? Gino was the lock, right?
Yeah. So then somebody else that I trust, like as much as I trust anybody, hit me up and said, hey, I got somebody at Tulane telling me that it's Willie Fritz. And that like, whoa. And then, like I said, like, you know, you spend the next 4 hours on the phone trying to figure out if this has any like real legs or not. And then it turned out it didn't. And like I said, at the time I was doing all of that work to find out if it was Willie Fritz, they had Scott Satterfield on campus interviewing him and getting ready to offer him the job. So Willie Fritz would be the only one I was comfortable with saying that I thought it was trending in that direction just because I trust that second source like this. Off the camera is how much I trust that second source.
All right. Well, that's the mailbag.
Whew.
Can we talk about the Louisville writer at the presser? I just don't get, like, what do you... So for people that aren't aware, if you haven't watched the press conference yet, there was a TV guy that drove all the way up from Louisville just to ask Scott Satterfield questions about Louisville.
And then got mad that he wasn't given extra time at the end to interview him one-on-one.
Yeah. What are you looking to, like, do you think I'd ever in a million years think I'm going to drive to Wisconsin and ask Luke Fickell why he left Cincinnati? Like, what answers do you think you're going to get other than the only thing you're trying to do there is go viral?
Luke wouldn't let you ask any questions. He'd specifically ask them not to allow you to ask any questions.
Can you imagine the look on Luke's face if I walked in that room in Madison?
That'd be hilarious. I would actually love to see that. Or that, hey, Chad, you know how we talked about doing that like joke, like press conference with me dressed up?
Yeah.
That if we did that in fucking Madison.
Yeah, me and you went to Madison and you
dressed
walked
up
in. Yeah, you walked in with like a jacket with like the BCJ, like the patch on it.
No, he's got a team vest on.
Yeah, the team vest with the BCJ patch on it on the front.
Oh my god, that's so good.
He would
Is he
like? He would. Yeah. Like there. What is that? I just don't know. Other than clout, right? That is clout chasing at its finest. I'm going to go to Cincinnati, ask this guy questions about Louisville, and hope that I can, one, rile him up enough live, or two, the Cincinnati athletic department is going to let me sit down one-on-one and ask him questions about Louisville. How fucking stupid do you have to be to think that that's possible? But the reality is they had no intention of doing that. Their only intention was clout. Social media, the Cincinnati's SID wouldn't even let us talk to him. But like you wasted 8 minutes of the press conference asking your stupid ass Louisville questions.
And 3 hours of your life driving that you'll never get back.
Yeah. All to go viral, Aaron. All to go viral. Hoping that he said something, right, that was inflammatory or derogatory or took a shot at Louisville so that he could go viral and like spread around the whole college football world. I'm on to you, bro.
Just sad.
We all are. Good old Louisville. Louisville, if you will.
Get us
Let's
out
get
of
out
here,
of
Brent.
here.
We done? Nothing else?
Done.
We're done.
3 hours, dude. Done.
Finished.
I asked that same thing at the end of every single pod, so I'll do it still on this one as well. So without further ado, big shout out, big thank you to Danco Transmission, to QuickPaperSupply.com, to our good guys, everyone who joined us, Mr. Dave Simone hopping in, for my guys, my pals, Chad Brendel, Ryan Royer, Aaron Smith, and Brent Young. Yet again, it was another fantastic BBP presented by BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!